Good morning and welcome back to Charlotte Motor Speedway. My name's Andrew Clemens, alongside me, Justin Prince, for a chilly kickoff to Saturday's action from the Queen City Gambit, day number 2 of on-track activity from America's Home for Racing, and the first couple of classes have gotten their warm-up sessions in as they try to get dialed for a full day of heat racing action and, of course, qualifying for all of the undercard divisions. Justin, yesterday, a much different start than today. Thankfully, a dry racetrack, and you're starting to see a little more movement in terms of passing and battling, and hopefully somewhat of an accurate read of what we could be set for when it comes to qualifying.
Yes, indeed, a nice and beautiful morning here today as we get all set to go for what's expected to be a busy day of racing, whether it's the heat, whether it's going to be those motos for the Pro Show later on. Going to be important for these drivers to make sure they get themselves all tuned up and ready to go. A lot of people, just before everything today, went through track walks with their team managers, with their parents, with their various coaches to make sure they had these marks down just right, just so they know what to expect for a race day like today. It's going to be a fun day to see how these drivers fare out and how some of these teams plan out their passes like the one you just seen on screen.
We're following Isaac Malcuit and Travis Pettit, two drivers here who have begun to really assert themselves in 2025 already with some major race weekend performances. The last time we were at the Speedway here, Isaac Malcuit made his debut in the CKNA Senior Light Division, his first foray into the headline classes, but it is a last year for him in the junior divisions, and a little bit easier, I'm sure, for a driver his stature to be able to not have to strap a refrigerator to that go-kart to make or exceed the minimum weight. Right now, these two are the fastest on the circuit. Travis Pettit, top of the board at the end of this session. Isaac Malcuit has been close to him and has kept him honest, and the pair will end up with a 43.257 and a couple of others. But a light run there by Cole Medeiros will put him to the top of the first of the two groups here for KA Junior at the end of qualifying. Travis Pettit, Max Weiland, Parker Ives, Edgar Rodriguez joining the top five over Easton Kubinski. Malcuit got bumped all the way down to 7th on that last lap by the line as everyone really picked up speed. That's to be expected. Cold temperatures, a cold racetrack. It's slowly beginning to warm itself up. But here's how the first group has fared from our initial warm-up session. The benchmark, a 43.328. Something to keep a tab on today, Justin, will be how quickly those times are changing session to session and how much the track is picking up speed. We're going to expect to see probably at least a couple of tenths better for the second group, even though it's an even split in terms of race pace for the warm-up groups from how they were randomly assorted in those practices. They're randomly assorted still through warm-up. They were set for qualifying based off happy hour in terms of which groups, but the fast group here for qualifying, we won't see them all those superstars together till that quali group set up comes in. So this is more of an even balance of talent in both in both groups for warm-up. Means that, again, we're going to get a great gauge of the track development. Now, Tristan Murphy's ready to go, but the engines aren't fired. It gives us a moment, Justin, to relive what the KA Junior class gave us back in 2024. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights here from this one. It was a hectic final lap, and it usually is in these 100cc pack-based racing classes. Enzo Vidmontien, who since moved up to KA Stars, led the way over Michael McGoy in the Ryan Perry Motorsport red and white colors down the backstretch, with Malcuit back on his Bureau Art from last year, and as well, Ty Fisher on that Race Lab and TV USA machine back there in 4th. But the battle kicked off here in the latter half of the lap.
Yeah, especially with a lot of the squabbling that happened in that third sector that led to a crazy finish here. These drivers just trying to figure out what they can do. Contact opened up the door for the race win for Malcuit as he was able to squeak on through and hold off the rest of the pack. It all came down to, quite simply, who was brave enough on the sem, but the contact in the second to last corner opened up the door for Malcuit just to drive on through.
And Malcuit will be ready to defend that title here this year as he begins his championship chase. A former Stars champion in the Swift Stars division is Isaac Malcuit. He'd love to be able to get himself a KA Junior title here in 2025 and maybe punch a ticket into the headline categories in 2026. Of course, every Stars Series champion gets a fully funded following year with entry in tires as a part of the Winner's Circle packages that they offer. And there's a number of other contingency packs that are dished out as well. But first, we've got to line the grids, run them through 2 rounds of heat races, and just decide who's going to make the cut into the 40-driver A main, because at 55 total entries, not everyone has the ability to be able to say they started that final on Sunday. It's an honor just to be able to be a part of that top 40, and to get there, it begins with a good warm-up session here today, hopefully making sure that nothing falls off, that all the overnight changes have stuck and have stuck well, and most importantly, of course, that you are feeling fast going into qualifying when you put on new MG tires.
Absolutely. We want to make sure any gremlins in the kart are out for if you have to make any change for qualifying, because qualifying is going to be so critical once they get on the racetrack for that to set the track position for today. It's going to be a fun time, though, to see how these drivers now in the second part of the sessions group up together and run well on the circuit as this track builds more and more rubber on the circuit as these laps get turned here as the morning progresses. You were mentioning yesterday, for example, though, on some of the practice groupings on the separations. In this class, for example, talking about how things went with KA Jr., where that separation live. The top time Max Whalen in that yesterday's final practice was in the 43.4s. The second session was able to keep up evenly. But the weather here this morning is going to get hotter and hotter as these drivers continue to get more and more sunshine built on the racetrack. It's going to be a little bit more different, as you mentioned, with the warm-up sessions.
Here's a look down to Forrest Adams, another driver that is already eyeing up the headline divisions here. He was hoping to be able to make his Pro Stars debut. It will have to wait one more season, but the Brandon Jarczyk Racing driver is going to take that opportunity to try and assert himself as one of the major contenders in his final year in KA. And already a good outlap for Forrest, and the BJRLN kart populates to the top of the leaderboard. 800s over Mason Landers, Tristan Murphy back in third, Ruben Gutierrez, Sam Tutwiler back in that fifth spot, Nate Golset, his first weekend officially with the Ryan Perry Motorsport colors, currently seventh as Darren Kidd's going to join the top 5 there with a run to fifth on that lap around.
Good tempo being set by these drivers right now across this racetrack as they continue to get used to this circuit before they go flying around the racetrack. But talking about Forrest Adams here, you're flying around the circuit, looking very consistent, was amongst the drivers that has had experience in multiple different cadets along Washington State that's popped up in terms of his racing career that's popped up. It's been a busy time when you look back to some of these drivers too, when they're trying to develop and try and get things going from their young age, all working the past 5-6 years in the case of Forrest Adams to make sure they can run at the top level and reach their goals in the long run.
This is a look back to the 899, new livery kit for us to identify on the racetrack there. One of the Steel Motorsports or Mark Steel Racing Birol Arts. Here is the 891 Parallel, the 826. There's Nate Golset. He'll jump to second with a big lap there, trailing the 891. Ruben Gutierrez is Parallel. So second and fifth here, the duo that we've got on screen with 3 minutes to go in this group. Again, another thing to note where those lap times will go. The quick laps came at the very last lap for that first group, and they were at a 43.3. We're already down to a 43.43, so 1/10 off for Forrest Adams. I would imagine we might get down to the 43 flats by the time this session clears. And that just shows you that it's going to really pay dividends for those that were able to maximize that happy hour session at the end of the day on Friday to go into the second group for qualifying and not have to be the first ones of your class to hit the racetrack.
Exactly. It's going to be so important to make sure you got all the data down, and that's why I think so many people took the track walk earlier to make sure on things. But as these drivers keep on working on, noticing some of our drivers like Landon Brewer moving on up, for example, one of the drivers that we've seen at K1 Circuit Whiteland a few times at the regional level, also a KRA champ back in 2021. moving up into the top 10 also with what they've been able to do so far in this session. So a lot of drivers looking impressive. Some of the drivers that started off the weekend strong, like Nico Kotowski towards the top of the board in the early practice sessions when it was rainy. Still need to find a little bit more speed maybe with the warm-up heading towards qualifying. That driver back in 12th position after looking solid in their original groups yesterday.
Another thing to keep in note here for the warm-up session for those that are following along at home is we're doing everything we can to make sure that you get your sponsors some love. If you've noticed that maybe your team may be incorrectly sorted on the warm-ups live pylon, or that the color bar is not according to the chassis that you're wheeling here this weekend, make sure to head to linktr.ee/kartchaser, or that link in our bio. We'll make sure to drop that in the YouTube live chat as well. There's a submission form to be able to make sure that your team logo, your chassis color is correct. And we'll make sure that we're updating those throughout the day as quick as we can. We want to give you all the love and allow you to spread that love to those that make it happen, and allow you to be able to get out to the racetrack and perform on one of America's biggest stages. Over 260 drivers here in attendance for this year's Queen City Gambit, what is shaping up to hopefully be a sign of things to come in terms of massive turnouts and great racing action at this 4-round championship that kicks off here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Of course, we'll head later into the year for the King of the Castle at Newcastle Motorsports Park. Round number 3, a new venue, heading to Quaker City Motorsports Park in Ohio. It will be the first ever major race at that brand new kart track. That place is, it has a lot of buzz around it, Justin. So allegedly over 1,000-foot main straightaway, a ton of elevation change. It's going to be something brand new for everyone going in. I know there's a lot of excitement in the area. It's about 2 hours down the road, plus or minus, from Pittsburgh International Race Complex that's held Stars Championship Series races in the past. But to have another brand new kart track, this sport has had so much excitement and momentum here in North America in the last couple of years. So many new venues, and venues like this that have been revamped and brought back to life to be able to hold high-level events like this one. It's just a great sign of where we're at as a sport and as a country to have another new venue joining the mix.
It's great in terms of the growth for the future of sport, because as these drivers finish up this session here, you have to keep in mind, drivers here that are racing, in many cases, are the next generation of all motorsports. And to get a start, in a lot of cases, it's through the karting route to be able to get experience on tracks at the national level. Look at that at the top of the session, though. Gabriel Bellong jumping to the top of the board there at the very end of the session with a 43.235, a couple tenths quicker than Tristan Murphy to end the session.
So there you go, Gabriel Balog, Tristan Murphy, Leonardo Saravalli, Caleb Tarter, Bowen Green, your top 5 from this one, and most importantly, a 43.2, a 1/10 gain from that first group. So that's how they fared, the top 15 from the opening round of warm-up for the KA Juniors, the only round of warm-up they will get, but from our second group. You can see the Swift Stars are ready to go. We are continuing with more of the action here from Charlotte Motor Speedway, America's home for racing. You're watching Kart Chasers coverage of the Queen City Gambit.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Kart Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental US.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, 70 bucks?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
Brandon.
Back to the on-track action now here with your Swift Stars division. These drivers 8 to 12 years of age. The second youngest age group on the Stars Championship Series structure. And just getting going now with a pack here with Holden Myers there in the middle in the 136 and a number of new faces to identify. There's a couple of Paralympians just up the road in front of him, one being the 195, the other the 145, coming to the line for what should be their first lap at speed.
Yeah, a lot of these drivers just testing out where some of the side-by-sides going to work here today for the battles to make sure they are up to snuff and ready to go once this field goes full on. Keeping an eye on a lot of the activity towards the top of the board. Jane Francisco looked very solid in the practice sessions, one of the Canadians in the field. Well, now he's top of the board in this warm-up session as well. You also have a lot of names that we've seen across the region. Danny O'Gara comes to mind that showed some good flashes. He's currently 10th in this warm-up. Santiago Orioli was towards the top of the board in yesterday's session, still 14th in the warm-up, but plenty of time for that championship competitor in the SCUSA Winter Tour, second place runner to go. One kart with an issue already as well. That's the 116, and it is Orioli who is pulling off.
Oh man, Santiago Orioli, not a hot start to the day for the OKP MPG Motorsports driver, as he'll have to watch the rest of warm-up from the sidelines. Meanwhile, Maxwell Macha's Velocity Sodi has just gone to the top. Jaden Francisco and the Ryan Perry Motorsport Nitro kart to second. Enzo De Janeiro to third. Those two drivers, P2 and P3, were the main competitors that we witnessed go at it. Both days of action in Texas 2 weeks ago. They have had a hot start to the year in the Winter Championships as well. And they enter the Stars Championship Series Queen City Gambit, I would say probably, Justin, as the two favorites. Definitely the two biggest waves of momentum you can ride on for the 174 and the 103.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when you do well in the wintertime. It carries a lot of momentum, and we have in our crash. The 124 and the 126 both off the circuit there. Here as they try to gather, that's Cameron Canach amongst those, believe, that is off the circuit. So a few drivers really pushing the limits, so to speak, to the point, well, they're touching the green stuff so far on this racetrack as you see some of the battling. How about testing if 3 wide works?
Yeah, that's definitely going to be something right there, trying to see if they can go side by side or side by side through some of these corners. This track is very wide. You definitely got the space to do it. Maxwell Macha has had no issue carving his way up through the pack. He had a pole run in qualifying just a couple weeks ago. It was a bit out of form for Maxwell. He's normally one driver we see marching up the board and doesn't really arrive on the scene till later in the day. But in warm-up right now, P2, although De Janeiro just pipped him 2 1/4 tenths better for the 190 Paralympian machine. So Macha down to second, Holden Myers into third on that Timmy Tech comp kart there on the 136. Nicholas Mose in the 133 P4.
Of course, Macha fourth in the SCUSA Super Nationals in 2024. Also someone in fourth in the 2023 Winter Trophy amongst the minis and the micros. So a lot of speed for Mancha, a lot of experience, as you mentioned, at the national level, and a lot of momentum coming into this series this season. Kate Wolf jumping up the board, though, to close up the session in the final 2 minutes or so here, and also joining in on the fun, as a lot of these drivers are picking up speed as these tires, as you would expect, come up to temperature and build themselves up to be able to make sure they are comfortable on this circuit. Still no beating the 190s, 45 flat though, still 2/10 up.
Minute and a half to go. Cade Wolf joining the fray at the front of the field. There's Holden Myers in the 136. Headed to the line this time. 4.5 tenths off the top. Does he go better? He'll jump to third, towing off the back of Lawrence Perriman in the Brandon Jarsikrak Racing LN Kart. Lawrence was a part of a couple of drivers we were able to take over to the Cabarrus County STEM Programs Family Night at the Howard R. Elementary School Thursday evening. He was exceptional at interacting with all the kids. We have a ton of tickets we were able to give away to Sunday's action. Hopefully we'll get to see a lot of new faces, a lot of families coming out. That is such a cool opportunity for us to be able to put together. I want to make sure I take some time to thank the Gaffera family, specifically Jacqueline Gaffera. Caleb Gaffera is a superstar we've come to know. He's worked for us as well in the past on the Kart Chaser crew. On weekends, he wasn't behind the wheel. This weekend, he's wheeling a USF 2000 race car down at NOLA Motorsports Park for the second round of the Road to Indy Championships. And his mom, who has been so involved in the community and bringing crowds out to the Coke 600 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway and everything in the Concord area, helped connect us with the Cabarrus County schools. And they were more than happy to allow us to bring some go-karts out. Brandon Jarskrak, it was just a quick absolutely answer when I asked him if he could take a couple of the BJRLN karts over to the elementary school, show them what we do, show them the race karts up close. Paulie Massimino, Lawrence Perriman, Marco Samet, and Chase Gassiet Lee were some of the superstars we were able to take over to the school and talk to the parents and kids. And a huge thanks to them for taking time out of their day Thursday evening. That's the type of stuff that we should be doing more of as a sport, and I hope that we get the opportunity to do that at every major race weekend later on through this year, working with members of the local community nearby to expose what we do, because the racing is phenomenal. You and I have called so much of it here. It's just such a cool opportunity to expose what we do to the general public that may not know.
Yeah, absolutely. As you look at the results here for the Swift Stars warm-up session, these drivers setting some good time. Enzo Monero leading the way at the top of the board over Wolf and Francisco. But you are right about the connection to the future. We mentioned about the growth of the sport. It's also important to connect people to opportunities. And for a lot of these drivers, they may not know about those opportunities unless they get that exposure to that, and being able to have a school event like you mentioned, one of the big ways for many of these drivers to learn what they can do to get on the track.
Now, of course, as we watch the rest of the times cycle by, Dominic Gaddis down there, 16th. These drivers a little further back. It's a full field of Swift Stars drivers, down to Will Feitinger there in 30th. And the Delta a little over a second through them. Luckily for all those drivers, they will get to go to the mains on Sunday. Won't be the same exact story for these ones, though. KA Stars, another packed grid of them, just like KA Junior. They'll be split in two warm-up groups, Group B and Group A, here this morning to get one last run at checking and dialing things in before it's time to really get after the action in qualifying and set those grids for 2 rounds of heats. And then the format for the Stars Championship Series, it's a weekend progression, and it's one of my favorites when it comes to handling an oversold field. You take, of course, qualifying to set a blend of heat races. You'll have 2 groups for each of the heats, the odd-numbered qualifiers and the even-numbered qualifiers. They'll stay in that flight for Heat 1 and for Heat 2 with a static grid based off of qualifying. So how you qualify sets you on the grid for Heat 1 or Heat 2. You qualify first overall, you're first in Heat 1A. You qualify second overall, you'll start pole in Heat 1B. But then after the heat races are run, you're averaged based on how you performed over both heat races, and that determines then the pre-final grids. The top 30 go to pre-final A. They fight for spots 1 through 30 on the grid in the main. 31st on back will then go to pre-final B. They'll be fighting for the starting positions of 31 through 40. The top 10 finishers will get those spots, and 11th on back. Their weekend will end there, but they still get a good amount of racing. It still gets them a good amount of points, and it makes it where if you have a good run through the heats, well, even if you wreck in that pre-final A, you're still at worst going to be starting 30th, so you're still safely in the final. Let's take a look back at those last couple of moments from last year's final, KA Stars, which had a typical couple of drivers at the end of the field getting after it. Alan Isambard back with Velocity Racing and Sodi led us to the white flag here. He had Adam Brickley hunting him down in that Alonso kart. Brandon Lemke, the eventual back-to-back champion KA Stars. James Overbeck there at the back of the frame. This last lap here, Alan Isambard, he had built a little bit of a gap. He was a bit slow early, had speed at the end, but they were still able to close back in on that long back straightaway, Justin.
Yes, indeed. It was, remember, a bit of a busy time for Isambard to even get into this position. We talked about this yesterday when looking back at some of the highlights. We had to battle back and forth with Berkeley, with Lemke in particular, to be able to get to the front. But they were all so busy trying to squabble a bit for second that Isambard was able to hold on. The cushion stayed, able to slap the side of the kart on the way to celebrating the victory in KA Stars in last year's action.
Here's a look at Ibrahim Dean, one of the first drivers that has been released from the grid in KA Stars, sporting that green and white Orsolone Racing Tony Kart kit, the 908, based out of Dallas in Fort Worth, Texas. He and his father, a father-son duo, one of a couple of the like that'll be competing here this weekend. But his father Ibrahim, his father Junaid, I don't know if he's entered in KA Masters. That class is massive, and I believe he may, but we've got problems here for Mason Surgener. He has spun around and backed it into the tire wall at turn number 1. And I think there may be a mechanical problem that may have forced that, so he's already up and out of the go-kart. Hard start here for Mason to kick off this morning round of warm-ups.
Did give the thumbs up, believe, for that he was okay. Looked like some contact as well as that issue with the kart. But outside of that, some of the drivers be trying to hold on in front. You also have amongst the front runners here, Fisher, just trying to get into a rhythm, make sure they got everything to go. Fisher showed some good speed yesterday in a lot of the sessions. And these drivers making sure how these drivers fare out in the pack. It's going to be ready to go for when they go battling here and try and position themselves as well to see who they may fit well with once they get qualifying coming up here as well, or how they want to approach the qualifying session is the bigger key.
For sure. This qualifying session here going to be probably a little bit like warm-up, but maybe a little bit more chaotic than it, because they're all experimenting right now. And it doesn't matter as much if you don't get a perfect lap in the warm-ups. It shouldn't transfer over into any kind of serious weight. But still, you're trying to time the gap. You're trying to learn who do you want to follow, who looks fast in this warm-up session that you think will have speed in the qualifier to work together, because with a group qualifying session, that extra bit of toe, following someone fast, that could be a 2/10 gain. Having a little bit of an issue, well, that could be maybe a 2 to 3/10 loss if you get trapped behind slower drivers and have to make a pass or just can't find a way around them.
Yeah, and that's going to be the tough thing, is if you get bunched up in a group you're not comfortable with, that's going to potentially cost you lots of time. We've already seen the spread, as you see on the pylon, between 1st and 18th being 1 second here. So these drivers are fairly close in terms of their average pace at least, or their hot lap speeds at least, for when they get to the qualifying session. It's going to mean a lot of close battling and racing in theory once things get going. For reference, Josh Campbell had started off the session the first 2 laps, absolutely flying on the board right now. That machine is back in 9th, now that a lot of these drivers have built up some heat into the tires and built some anger into their karts to be able to zoom around the racetrack right now. Frederick Manning amongst the drivers that have jumped up as well, just within 2/10 of those top 2 karts on your pylon.
It'll change quite a bit as more drivers start to get some clear racetrack and some clean laps in for sure. Peyton Phillips will be one of them. He'll jump to the top on the Arcane Motorsports Tony Kart. Been a solid opening start to that partnership of Peyton moving over to the Dallas-Fort Worth-based team. There's a look at Josh Campbell, one of the Arizona natives that has made the trek all the way over here to the Stars Championship Series. And he is running with the Brandon Jarstrakrak Racing Group that has been his home for the last, I believe, season and a half or so. And the LN Kart driver has shown some good amounts of speed at the right weekends. I think this could be a big a tone setter for Josh Campbell. Having sat out the Winter Series, he was not with us at Houston, Texas for the opening round of the SCUSA Pro Tour. He's focused on the Stars Championship Series, though. He'd love to be able to score a major win to kick off this championship campaign. Compared to the drivers that he's around that may have had a little bit more seat time over the last couple of months here in the winter, Josh is trying to get those cobwebs, hopefully, if there's any remaining from yesterday, fully worn back off. So as he follows the middle of this group, Autumn Fisher trailing him now there in that TP kart, one of his teammates just up the road there. That's the 902. First career national race weekend for a fellow BJR driver in Brock Knowles, who currently sits in the 5th spot on the pylon. So great debut here for Brock Knowles, one of many drivers that is choosing the Stars Series to make their foray into the big-time racing here in the U.S., although a little hiccup there just kind of bottled them up. And on the other side of the racetrack, we got issues for one of the Kartworks Racing USA drivers, the 977. Off to the side, that is Nick Mercer, right in the middle of the S's. That's headed into that final sector.
Yeah, that's going to probably require him to get some assistance here. They are getting the assistance to push that kart just out of the way, make sure there's no issues for the rest of the session for the next minute or so. Take a look from the drivers in the next grouping, watching along and just getting themselves ready to jump on the racetrack. They're going to have a couple minutes here probably to be able to get a breather. But all that's while Peyton Phillips, you mentioned him with that team move. So far, he's been looking very strong. He might be amongst the threats for the race win after that switch to the team that started with the Texas Sprint just in the past couple months on that team swap, and now is looking to do very well here today and is looking off to a very solid start.
Yeah, great start here for Peyton Phillips. And the KA Stars driver has elected to kind of go all on his own, and that's something to keep a tab on here, Justin. I mentioned the pack racing and that these classes without the rev limiter do benefit off the slipstream effect, but all on his lonesome right now, putting in some hot laps. Raheem Alibi has jumped to second, Sam Avrutsky to third. Let's see if anything else changes when they hit the line. Nothing there. Checkers out. No improvement for Peyton. This should hold as they head to the line. That benchmark, a 43.140. Not as quick as I thought that he may end up going, all things considered, though, Justin, knowing that the KA Stars, albeit a little bit heavier weight, don't have that exhaust restrictor that the KA Juniors do. Only about a tenth and a quarter better than what our KA Junior top time has been so far.
Yeah, yesterday, when it comes to these drivers, mind you, was looking at this for the KA Stars. Earlier on, they ran as fast as a 43 flats. Jared Clark had been that quick driver in the second session. Now it's going to be an interesting thing to see if a trend falls from that, where session 2 had set basically the entire top 11 in final practice. Not expecting fully that, but we may see a lot of drivers surpass that time as a result with this second grouping ready to go, especially when you throw in drivers like Enzo Viamonte, who's looked very strong whenever you've seen him on the racetrack in this second pairing.
Yeah, Enzo Vidmontien, the SLA Kart Racing Kart Republic has been fast. So has Hudson Brown, though. The North Carolina driver has now gotten his footing, I would say, in KA Stars competition. He's spent a lot of time at Trackhouse Motorplex in their club racing action. We've seen him on the national scene a handful of times here in KA action. We've known him as well to be one of the top 206 senior drivers in all this Cup Karts North America Nationals. He's here this weekend aboard the Gold Kart that he has been sporting for the last year or so. And then, well, you go on the other side, someone a bit newer to the senior ranks. Davin Roberts and Ryan Perry Motorsport. That kid was probably the most multifaceted driver from 2024, scoring race wins in OKN-J competition, X30 Junior competition, ran up front, I believe, got a win at one point or another in KA Junior across the board, and for sure was the driver to beat when it came to Rotax Junior Max. I mean, there was no one, I think, on that KA Stars grid that probably drove as many different packages as Davin has. He's one of the younger drivers on the grid, but he doesn't look it. Stature-wise, he is definitely one of the tallest drivers in the go-kart, and he would be looking to potentially move up as soon as possible to some of the senior classes. Maybe he'll be keeping his eye on the shifter categories as well, because that's something that seems to favor the bigger body types, whereas the single-speed classes, that lower center of gravity and that smaller hole in the air that you punch going down the straightaways can pay all the difference when it comes to getting that last bit of the lap time out of it.
Looks like these drivers all set to go here off and away in this second grouping. 952 going to be amongst the lead carts here on the racetrack. 952.
Justin Music,
Yes.
Arcane Motorsports teammate to Peyton Phillips. He's going to be confusing for us here this morning at least. Sporting Peyton's old suit.
Yeah.
But Justin Music, another Texan driver out of that small Texas-based team, led by Trevor McAllister. They're ready for hopefully a big foray and a big national season here this year as they continue to step things up and build. Justin Music, last 2 seasons, has been one of the names you'll recognize from our Texas Sprint Racing Series broadcast. He's made a handful of national level starts. He joined into the Pro X30 ranks at the Super Nationals, did exceptionally well, made the main, ran inside the top half of the field. Was fun to watch him get after it against some of the best in the world. And back in a KA package where he has been one of our top 5, top 10 drivers and battling for podiums at the TSRS events. Looking for maybe that major breakthrough weekend. This weekend could be that. Teamed up with a former race winner and former champ on the national tour in Peyton Phillips. And another driver who's also, I would say, has joined our conversation is the one just ahead of Enzo Vidmontien. Alex Machado on the Velocity Racing Sodi was very impressive just a couple weeks ago in Texas. And I think the Sodi boys have definitely found themselves another superstar to pick up where Alan Isambard left off last year with that main event win. The bar is set pretty high for Machado in the 989, Justin, but he hung in that top 10 both days of action at Speed Sports. I think if he was able to maybe find a little more speed by the end of the day yesterday, he could be a serious player when it comes to the main today. But Vidmontien, Hudson Brown will be the first 2 to top the boards here as we get this session going.
Yeah, going to be keeping an eye on some of these other drivers as they shuffle on. Jared Clark, we talked about that name, putting up very fast times. They also have Oliver Marak that they're keeping an eye on. Actually just had an article written about him in the past few days on the Canadian side of the border with his experience. Was amongst the drivers that's competed in Scuso, Rotax, and RLK competition in that 999 kart. Lots of experience with the win in the Ron Fellows Karting Championship as well. The Canadian going to be somebody to keep an eye on. Did not put up times in the final sessions in practice, but seems to be very comfortable in the warm-up once the top 5 in this grouping as the rest of the drivers cycle around once again.
Jared Clark now quickest as there's more movement there. That's we're going to pick up Oliver Hodgson in the 927. He's running right behind the 962 of Chris Harrower, who was also relatively quick. There's Oliver Marak as well, running right through our camera on that purple and white REM Cosmic. And there is the new fastest time of the 916. Jared Clark headed down the back straightaway on that blue and white and yellow BJR LN card. Oliver Hodgson, when you talk about the performances in Texas, he was definitely one of the fastest drivers both days and dominated the day on Saturday. Nobody thought they had anything for him. This weekend, though, ending the day yesterday on a high note, Jared Clark, he was exceptionally fast here last year, and for the limited amount of national racing that he's able to do, the father-son duo have really, I think, turned some heads, and without a doubt, he's had some stopwatches on him through the day on Friday. He's probably got a lot on him now. 3.5 tenths clear, the biggest delta so far for KA Stars. Jared Clark over Oliver Marak and Enzo Vidmontien. This kid is on fire right now here to kick off this morning, Justin.
Well, he's definitely keeping up the trend from yesterday in the final practice session. Is he at the top of the board in the second grouping? Does so yet again. After all, is someone that has had a lot of experience with the Briggs Senior Championship second place, You also have KA100 Senior Championship competition where he was also a third-place runner. Runs a lot at Trackhouse Motorsplex as well as his home track. Clark absolutely flying, although Mauricio Hernandez just put up a very similar lap time as well as Oliver Hodgson. They're the only drivers to cross that 43-second plateau in this warm-up session so far.
So that'll be something to keep tabs on here, how quick they go. This is new colors for Mauricio Hernandez, and the LN Kart for the Rocket Racing Company just was announced as their new KA Stars signee. He was super excited about it. Another one of the international drivers that has been wanting to get more and more American racing on his calendar. And Mauricio moving up into P2, just 200ths off, is a good start to his day as he trails another one of those BJR LN karts. Cash Perkins, senior rookie, moving into the top 5 as well. He pushes Hudson Brown down to that 6th spot. Henry Taylor with a good start to his day. He sits 7th. Chase Buscaglia on the Macron Motorsports Comp Kart in 8th. And there's Mauricio going on by Harrower at the end of the backstretch. This could be a very good lap. Let's follow him to the finish here. A minute to go. And with that bit of toe, if he hits this last sector really nice, even though he had to go by Harrower, that's probably one of the least painful passes, Justin, is that long sweeper at the end of the back straightaway. You can kind of take advantage of the slipstream down the straightaway to make up for what you might lose in the turn. It didn't end up being the best lap for Mauricio there, but still it looked like it was not too far off, a couple tenths off of what he was able to hit earlier. But the times are evening out now, not a lot of improvement through the field. Anthony Rivera was one of the only ones to go better the last time around. He jumped to 3rd. Oliver Hodgson did not improve. It pushed him down to 4th.
Yeah, these drivers consistently, for the most part after that hot lap speed, are able to run times for what it looks like right now in the 43-second bracket. So the consistency is there in this grouping. It's going to be just a matter of can they carry it forward once they go racing, once they go at full pace around this racetrack. As it looks like, I will say this for the qualifying, this is going to be something to keep an eye on here with the checker flag now waving in session. The peak time started to come around lap 5-ish in this group. We might see that being the constant for KA Stars, where you might need to time it up for just that lap to be able to make sure you set a pole time for today.
Final time coming up here as the 9.63 leads Oliver Hodgson around that final turn, and to the front stretch we go. Checkers in the air. Any other movement at the line? Doesn't look like there'll be much change on the board. So KA Stars Warm Up comes to a close, and that will put a end to practice here from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Qualifying coming up next here as KA Masters takes to the grid. Jared Clark ends on top with a 42.819. Couple tenths better than that first group. 3 tenths to be exact for the 916 of Jared Clark. Mauricio Hernandez, Anthony Rivera, Oliver Hodgson, Enzo Vidmonte, and your top 5. KA Masters qualifying will kick things off at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, about 12 minutes away. We'll see you guys on the other side of this break from Concord, North Carolina. Charlotte Motor Speedway. Kart Chasers coverage of the Stars Queen City Gambit rolls on.
Paulie Massimino wins in KA. Paulie Massimino is a winner in OKN Stars.
Take your driving to the next level with one-on-one coaching from 2024 OKN Stars champion Paulie Massimino. Kart rental options are available if you'd like to keep yours at home, and drivers in all classes are welcome. From Briggs 206 to Mini to KA100 and X30. With in-depth data analysis, onboard video footage review, and lead follow on-track sessions, each private coaching session will see you end as a more complete driver than when you started. Book your coaching session now.
Kyle, what are you doing?
It's got my new Greyhound seat.
You don't even have a cart.
Doesn't matter. I have a Greyhound. last person. Doesn't even have a go-kart. Doesn't matter.
Cuthbertson through on Turney. Turney in the dirt.
DPK Americas is bridging the gap between the U.S. and the two-time world champion DPK Alonso Kart factory team in Europe.
In partnership with Team Binnick, they offer drivers a complete career path from the Americas to Europe that allows them to continue their driver development on both sides of the world, all underneath the DPK umbrella.
For more information, contact DPK Americas at max@drivensm.com to take the next step in your driver development journey.
Qualifying underway. KA Masters bringing the action to the racetrack here from Charlotte, and it is a mad swarm. 20 plus deep here, one of the bigger fields on record for the KA Masters division in the Stars Championship Series' short history. And it is a big pack of them all that has been sent on to the racetrack, and a couple of new drivers joining the fun. Sean Bailiff, the captain of the Trinity Karting Group Bureau Art USA squad, joining the action here after about a 2-year hiatus. I'm not sure how many laps he's gotten to drive in a go-kart for a guy that spends more days at the go-kart track than probably anywhere else. Lives on property at the track that he and his wife own at the MCC Country Club of the MCC Kartplex, the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. His boys obviously are behind the wheel a good bit. I'm sure they're having a good kick out of watching Dad get after it here right now. And Justin, you and I were checking how the captain did yesterday. Sean was okay for his first day back. Wasn't last.
Yes, he was looking pretty solid in terms of the pace. After all, you have to remember, he's got experience all the way back from 1979 when it comes to his karting days. Also, at one point, was a midget and sprint car racer, also competing in Formula Atlantic, and as well, the big thing, of course, the Indy Racing League. So he has a lot of experience, and of course, has that experience owning the go-kart track, but also with Trinity Karting Group. That's going to be very valuable for him and be helpful in terms of the racing here today with all that experience backed up. Now, the thing is, the downside is, right now, not one of the top runners in the early going in the session. Just a lot of passing, if anything, for the 281 Kart, rather than just allowing himself to just run on his own and get settled in.
Yeah, he's not alone, though. There's quite a bit of drivers moving up and down and around the racetrack right now to try and sort a good position to run for qualifying. There's one driver who is sporting the #1 plate for 2025, and he's decided to get away from all that. John Bonanno in the Fulcrum competition. Comp Kart, last year's KA Masters champion, had a under-the-radar type of run here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Queen City Gambit. Sat in the wings inside the top 3 and kind of was only able to really play witness to the fight for the lead. He said at the end of the weekend, we were close. We didn't really have that extra bit of what I needed to be able to fight for the race win, but that consistency from round 1 carried over through the rest of the season en route to a championship and a season on Joe Janowski's dime, which of course is always a good thing as a driver when you're able to run with funding not from your own pocket. Although, looks like we've got some issues as we take a step aside there from Bonanno for the moment. There was one driver up the hill, and that is another comp kart, is the 220 of Kevin Simonelik that has had an issue here on the outlap of qualifying.
Yeah, some drivers having some problems around the racetrack, it looks like, but for the most part, things are settling in for Bonanno. I will say, flying in terms of average pace, just kicked up the time by an extra 10th or 2 for good measure, but the other driver that was keeping up with him, Eric Fagan, up to this top of the board by a couple 100s. Austin Queen also making his presence known as well in the 222 Kart.
Yeah, Austin Queen, Eric Fagan. Queen, of course, competed last year. Fagan did not. 2 different stories, 2 drivers with a lot of experience, finding themselves here in Charlotte, North Carolina for the Queen City Gambit. Here's Miguel Mir on the Orsilon Racing Tony Kart. Currently in that, he quickly went to the top of the board on the outlap, then has been pushed down to the 6th position. Eric Fagan still leads the way as things stand.
Yeah, and the interesting when it comes to Eric Fagan was he was amongst the drivers that actually joined as a full-time mechanic with Todd Barron's team of Barron Brothers Racing as the 299 problems.
Scott Falcone with a spin down at turn number 1. He'll slowly rejoin the pack, try to clean those tires back off as he goes off to the wayside to let everyone through. That'll pick up a ton of debris and marbles. We haven't seen a lot of them, but the track has begun to develop and take some rubber. You can see that the lines are beginning to darken. This place does build a lot of grip. It was a lot to witness at the CKNA event. Oh, wow. Big diver down the inside for the 201 Gold Kart machine. And that was right into the side pod of the 211 of Boa Mato. That was a heck of a send there from the Gold Kart driver of Fagan. But, well, he had to take the spot away. Eric Fagan wanted to get clear racetrack and taking advantage of a class that he hasn't competed in much in recent memory. Eric Fagan is another driver with a lot of experience here, Justin. He has raced just about everything you can imagine over the years. The last probably half decade or so, we've only really seen him running in 206 competition. He spent most of these weekends on the wrenches, tuning and coaching for various drivers on the tour. But this weekend, he's back behind the wheel, driving a gold kart, working together with the Hudson Brown family. And that bright green and blue colored machine is top of the pylon currently.
Yeah, mind you, in the past year or so, had just relocated to Mooresville, North Carolina after being an Ohio native. So, the experience also looking very strong. Has raced in the past several years with CKNA Nationals as well. On top of that, the Cup Kart Self Division in terms of his pace. It's going to be hard to touch that 43.9. I think everybody else is running 44-second lap times. I think the tires may have reached their peak for a lot of these competitors here too, with what we're looking at on the board. John Bonanno, who had led the way for most of the practice sessions yesterday, not able to move up from that 4th spot now. Going to have to deal with some traffic after looking like the Pied Piper on day 1 of this event.
Final laps coming in. Eric Fagan still the best of them all so far, as he's getting, has Bo Amato still on his heels. The last lap coming to the line. Oh, big moment there for Bo. Dropped a tire in the curbing and it still held some water. That got hit, or no, that wasn't Bo Amato, that was Brent Harper. Another different Kart Republic here this weekend. Brent Harper in the 2-1-3, getting a little bit out of shape. He was 3rd. Let's see if it holds. Most of the field has gone by the line. He might be safe. Fagan, at this point, it would just be an exclamation point if he could open that gap any wider to the line. Nothing better for him. It's a tie on the timing and scoring charts between Austin Queen and Brent Harper for 2nd, going to the 10th of a thousandth of a marker between the pair of them, both just under 0.2 off the pace of the top drivers.
Very close in amongst the top 5, though. John Bonanno and Scott Falcone within 0.3 of the top time. Then you have Meyer in that 6th position. Stifler, Paul, Montipoli amongst the top 8 in the session. Some drivers going to have to go to the drawing board to see what they can do to close up. But good, strong performance by Eric Fagan at the top of the board.
So first qualifying session in the books. The 201 tops the boards in KA Masters qualifying. And we keep tabs on the rest of the field here with just one session underway. Lots of qualifying still to be run. The Pro Show presented by Mazda Motorsports classes, OKN Junior, OKN Stars, and Pro Stars are just now beginning to warm those engines up. They'll run their warm-up session at the end of the qualifying rotation to get ready to go out. They qualified, of course, yesterday afternoon. But KA Masters, our first class in the books from Charlotte Motor Speedway with grid set for 2 rounds of heat races. And let's take a look back at the back of the field there as they go on by down to Ken Simonelli, the only driver that was unable to turn a lap in qualifying. And so he ends up starting tail end Charlie, John Sinescu, Greg Leahy, Kim Kiripalati, Kevin Simonelli, Paul Meis, Tom Gersner, and onwards. 24 deep.
And Sean Bale, we were talking about him earlier on, 17th in the end of qualifying. Fortunate for him in terms of the track position game, but Micro Swift, once the next class that's going to be coming onto the racetrack here, looks like a lot of those team members just finishing up their final coaching and preparation to make sure these drivers know exactly what they need to do once they get the session going. Is a name I'm curious about. Keep an eye on that red car to the right of your screen. That is Slade Harrell. That's looked extremely quick from the onset. Kept an eye on him yesterday. That kart has a lot of straight line speed for the 8 machine, and we amongst the first drivers on the track for this qualifying session.
Yeah, the Nitro kart, one of a handful of privateers running this weekend. And the flurry of the youngest superstars of the Stars Championship Series are eager to get off the line and get this qualifying session going. So here we go, qualifying underway for the 7 to 10-year-olds as they leave the grid, and another 30 kart field for them. Slate leads them off down and through the opening chicane. And the door of opportunity has opened as we got a couple spinners back there right around turns 5, 6, and 7. One of the Bureau Larts going around, Jack Katowski as well, one of the TKG Bureau Larts in the 92. They're just ahead of the 44, who will rejoin them here in a moment.
Just one kart getting itself on the racetrack right now, but may as well get some of the chaos out early, I guess you can say, rather than in the race, but it's still going to hurt you for the track position game potentially with the marbles on the tires. Looks like everyone's on the clock. Harrell, Francisco, Stoffel, and Lockhart amongst the first 4 who are going to be in this line to try and set their qualifying runs.
Slade Harrell by himself is trying to do what Parker Ives proved was possible last year in the Swift Stars division. Ran all on his lonesome and drove away from the pack without any help needed to dominate that class's main event last year. As we got a spinner now, that's the 44 going around. The Paralyn, who had waited at the back of the field, has spun down at turn number 1. Who would that have been here who had just gone by?
That would have been Charlie Serbakowski in terms of the 44 kart. So these drivers having some slippery times here early going, but 47 flat to start for Harrell. Expect those times to kick up a fair bit as the speeds built into the kart and the tires continue to pump up as they zip around the racetrack. And the rest of this line looks like, for the most part, everyone's got a little bit of gap. No one's really going necessarily for a draft approach here, just all on the lonesomes, just to focus on the laps themselves at the moment, it seems, rather than stay together as a pack. Outside of a couple of groupings here with the 30 and the 91, that's Grayson Powers behind Dutch Westbrook is the kart in front. That's one of the few groupings of karts together up front as the speeds go up a full second up front.
Dutch Westbrook right there in the number 30, the blue and reddish-orange Bennick got a big-time win in front of a hometown crowd 2 weeks ago. He's riding one heck of a wave right now. That young man led off a Bennick 1-2. I think he was equally happy that he and Zev Gottschalk were able to bring that finish to the team. One driver who was unfortunately watching it from a bit further back after a hiccup earlier in the day was this young man, Lennox Lockhart, who was able to finally score his first career major victory the day before on Saturday. He had so many close calls earlier in the year. This year, I mean, this kid has had that win just waiting to finally materialize. And in every way possible, he had so many close calls. He was ecstatic Saturday night, Justin. He was kept the suit on all the way to dinner at the food park just on property across the way. He was pretty sure he was going to end up sleeping in it. He was smiling from ear to ear, beaming, and the confidence is building for this Miami, Florida-based driver, Lennox Lockhart, leading that pack with Zev Gottschalk right behind from Curacao in the white helmet. But the 14 Velocity Racing Sodi is not yet making an impact on the lap charts. 8/10 off last time by in 7th. Let's see what this lap turns out to be here as we approach the halfway mark in Micro Swift qualifying. To the line for Lennox. He'll jump a little further back. No improvement that time. 9th for the 14, so nothing there. Here's the 29, Brody Stoffel on the Jay Howard driver development, Kart Republic. That white and blue livery last time around picked up a little bit. He moved up to P7. Gottschalk P8. Liam Francisco's RPM Nitro kart moving up and into the 3rd spot as Caden Cladera trails still from Slate Harrell, who is putting a beat down right now on this field. 4/10 clear for Slate in the number 98, by the way. That's impressive.
Extremely impressive, especially, again, as said, on his own, doing exactly what you said with Parker Ives, where he was known to run away last year in these karts. Lockhart, though, picked up the pace into the 45.9s after cooling down the tires, it looks like. Gottschalk and Francisco also amongst those who set personal bests. We are in that optimal window right about that lap right here. So we are at the edge of where a lot of these drivers are going to see some improvement amongst their times, and we have drivers here on screen that just want to squabble and find a way in front. Like the 38 Kart. The 14, though, Lockhart, just getting a small whiff of slipstream. If anything, doesn't seem like there's any impediment for Lockhart at the moment as he continues on here. Well, now there's an impediment because the 29 of Stoffel did not get a good corner exit for the final corner. Did cost him 2/10 on the board. It looks like 45.9 to a 46.1. The 45.9 is personal best. The 46.1, the one he just set on the clock.
Minute to go, though. Still could see some more changes. I think Lennox may get a bit of a better lap this time. I think Zev Godchuk's on a heater, though, Justin, looking at the way that they're shaping up. Keep an eye on that white helmet, third in line here in this group. He's been closing in on these two. If this is a good lap, Curacao might steal the pole away. The small country here with just Zev Godchuk representing them this weekend. His older brother, Win, not in attendance. They're going to pass in front of him. That may hold him a little bit. Let's see as they go to the line. As Lennox went around on Stoffel, and unfortunately that was just enough to keep him from going better. Stayed about a 10th off, so no change. Slate Harrell remains on top of the boards at a 45.74, 2/10 still to the good. And I think all three of them, unless this lap is a major one for Lennox Lockhart, it may be the end of it. Slate Harrell had to get through traffic this lap, so we'll see if it ends up hurting him at all. That's the 44 Parolin that we saw spin earlier in the session. Skrpowski just a bit behind him to the line for the number 8. He'll hit the checkered flag, probably be the first one to get it. Micro Swift qualifying. Final laps to the loop. Nothing for Slade as he had to get through traffic, so he slowed down. Won't go better than that 45.7. Liam Francisco on the 41, not going to improve. Neither will that next group we were following most of the session. Godchuk, Lockhart, Dominic Nagel cannot do any better. No one going better so far until you go back to 9th. Austin Taylor improves one spot. And I think that'll end it. Slate Harrell will top the boards by more than 2/10 of a second in qualifying for Micro Swift. What a great run for him. And Nitro Kart continues an impressive start to 2025. The Cody Johnson-led camp. The Chip Ganassi Racing linked development program, 2 1/4 tenths clear, and I think they've got a superstar in the making that Chip's got to keep his eye on, Justin.
Yeah, Slate's been consistent all throughout the weekend so far when it comes to his pace, and he keeps that going with what he's done here in qualifying. Going to be hard to beat him, I think, during the race itself. That's going to be the major thing. Can anybody find a way around that 8 Kart with what he's been able to do and consistently set the top times in the practice sessions throughout the week so far?
So Slate Harrell, top qualifier by 2 1/4 tenths here in the scale line. He's obviously all smiles. Good stuff for him while he'll wait to go in and meet or exceed the minimum weight and check in with the rest of the Micro Swift drivers. 2 classes now completed. K Masters grid set, Micro Swift grid set. We'll be moving on from this division to go to the Pro Masters and Pro Super Masters classes as we show you the final few results down to 26 with Jackson Frank there on the 42. Charlie Skurzapowski, 24th. He was the one that we were talking about that was just behind Slate on that last lap. Splitting them, Drew Schneider. And onwards, we roll 2 down. Pro Masters, Pro Super Masters on deck. K8 Junior. B and A for qualifying, Swift Stars, KA Stars, and then the Pro Show class warm-ups will be following up afterwards.
What's going on in your head right now?
Just trying to get, I guess, lead and try to win.
Congrats, Slate.
Thank you.
Apologies about a bit at that there. Congratulations to Slade Harrow, top qualifier from Mike Earl Swift. We move on. Pro Masters, Pro Super Masters just beginning to begin their outlaps now for qualifying. And let's check on in. There's Scott Presti in the 626 Presti Racing Croc Promotion shifter that leads the field ahead of Matt Machiko and company. Jake Fetter right there looks to be behind him in the comp cart, who had some solid runs over last year's event. But Scott Presti, I think, is probably going to be the benchmark for this division, Justin. He was testing himself against the pros at some of the winter programs this year, and he ran pretty well. Right in the midfield, dropped inside the top 10 at the SCUSA Winter Series events both weekends, pace-wise and performance-wise. And then when he went to Texas for the Pro Tour in the Master Shifter category, he was the driver to beat. It felt like most of that weekend nobody was better throughout the 4-day stint than he was. And now here for the Stars Championship Series, the Shifter Master class is a little bit bigger in total, but again, it's split in two. You have Super Masters and you have regular KZ Masters. The regular KZ Masters, I believe, are the 600 numbers. The 500 numbers are your Super Masters drivers. So, for example, the likes of Hugh Templeman, Morn Van Tok, Lance Lane, they are in the 45 and over class. The 30 and over division, the regular Masters division, that is the 600 numbers. That's what Scott Presti, Jake Fetter, Matt Machiko find themselves in. And Machiko, of course, the reigning division champ, so he gets to sport that #1 plate here in 2025.
Keeping an eye on seeing how some of these drivers build up pace. I'm curious in particular about Skidgy Barnes, which we've seen Barnes be contender in this race last year in his respective class. Didn't set the best of times in the warm-up. In fact, did not take part in the warm-up. Was around mid-pack in final practice yesterday. So a lot to improve upon in that camp, I think. But Presti is the benchmark indeed to start. How about by a full second to start? Just about 9/10 just about up was Presti over Jake Vetter. Leader at the moment in the 612 cart with the gap right now. Major thing too, Rivera in the other class leading the way too. Some of these drivers though have to remember this is a class where these carts take some time to build up the speed here to be able to get themselves into a proper time window. Presti did not improve, for example, in his last lap, this time by Machinko. Able to jump himself up to second on the board within half a second of the pole time. Barnes gets to third. Machiko looking very fast. Farrah still up there. Brad Danoff as well as time progresses amongst these drivers as they get all sorted out on the board and get all grouped together here. Talking about this one cart once again. Chico continue to fly around the racetrack. Talked about that experience as the champion. Also has the experience where he tries to focus on the fitness side of things, be able to try and keep himself fit. Pittsburgh-based driver, though, falling down to fourth on the board despite a time improvement as Scott Presti jumps up to second.
Let's see if Jake Fetter can pick up any bit more. Still having a great rabbit to chase there in the form of the reigning series champ. You can watch a little bit of variance in lines for some of these drivers as well with how they have to navigate that bend. That end of the backstretch left-hander, the sweeper, is very easy in the single-speed classes, but in the gearbox divisions, you can watch how kind of unstable the rear end is, both exiting that corner still with a bit of load and a yaw to it, and then having to try to square back up to the opposite side for that right-hander going over the bump in the scale corner kind of bend. So just in that lap alone, you saw Fetter a bit out of shape, and the same for Machiko, and now Fetter looks like he's starting to cool his tires back off. I wonder if we'll see him bail for the pit lane now. Already putting in one good lap. You're going to see him pull off to the side here. He'll let a couple of cars on by. And let's watch the 612. Is he headed for the scales already? No, he's going to do a cool-down lap and then maybe do another push lap after. You mentioned that yesterday, Justin. That's something that I think these shifter drivers will probably try to do as well.
Yes, absolutely. Try and make sure they get that optimal temperature window, because if you pass that window on temperatures where it's so hot, you're not going to get good lap times. You're going to see degrade in performance. You stay in that window, usually keep yourself consistently quick right now it looks like this 612 just trying to make sure they get back in that window after cooling down a fair bit. A lot of slip and slide through to the corners, though. Oh, as they try and get back to a rhythm. Same to be said for the Karts on behind. That's the 609 of Barnes, and it is a stop in the pit lane. There goes the 612. That opens up the door for Barnes to try and improve upon himself from 5th right now on the board.
Skitchy Barnes was able to do the donuts last year as the Queen City Gambit winner, going head-to-head with Joe Rook. Sad to not be able to see Joe make it out this weekend. I'm sure he's watching along at home and rooting for his Marinello boys to get some good results. They had a great run in the Pro Stars qualifying yesterday. I'm sure they were able to learn a little bit on the go-kart as well, having their superstars like Justin White put it up there in the top 10 and have an impressive qualifying run as well for Gage Corn. Both drivers will be starting at the pointy end of the grid here today for the motos. Frankie Iadavea also very impressive out of that camp. Skitchy Barnes and Brad Danoff are the only two in the Pro Masters and Pro Super Masters classes. The KZ-powered Marinellos split there with the 517 of Brad down in the Super Masters division. He's 13th overall, ahead of Lance Lane, a little behind Osley Cheek, Hugh Templeman, and Mike Rivera. And Skitchy right now is 4th. Jake Fetter pulling in early. I don't think he's going to continue to end this session. He's pulled a lap in after hitting that major time of a 41.001. Scott Presti second is close. And then it's Hernando Sanchez. Skitchy Barnes now fading into the pit lane. A number of drivers joining as well. But Jake Fetter, top qualifier from Pro Masters and in the Pro Super Masters class. Morn Van Talk, top of the boards by about a tenth and a half over Mike Rivera in the Rivera Racing GFC. So that's first and second of the 500 digits. But Jake Fetter goes a little bit better than last year. His Pro Masters debut put him in the top 5 consistently. Now he'll be leading the field into the start boxes and starting from position number 1 in the heat races today. Great turnaround for the great build on for the comp kart driver.
Yeah, absolutely flying pace, just about got into that 42nd bracket with what he was able to do. Looks like he's going to get some congratulatories here as he gets sent down pit side. Believe Alex is setting things up down below.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Jake, P1, small margin there. Walk me through the lap.
Yeah, I was really just trying to make sure I had enough space. Had Matt out there as sort of a rabbit to chase. That always kind of helps, but just trying to time things out so that I had wasn't having someone breathing down my neck, but at the same time kind of had the room to try to catch them. So it just kind of came together there. Tried to set up maybe for another one, just wasn't feeling it, so I decided to save the tires, come in a little early.
When I walked up to you for the interview, you looked at me and said it must be good. Did you kind of expect this after what yesterday's practice was like?
Yeah, we were looking pretty good in practice, but the margins were really getting pretty close. Knew it was going to probably be between me, Scott, or Matt. I think we might have a pretty good battle on our hands between the three of us, so looking forward to that. Glad to get this one, though.
Last thing here, I mean, obviously with the weather yesterday, how's the track putting rubber down now?
Honestly, the grip level is way better than I was expecting it to be originally. I think we're already like over a half second over what we were qualifying last year, and we didn't have the rain last year. So, yeah, track's kind of coming in quite a bit better than I was expecting it to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
KA Junior, first of 2 groups here for qualifying. So this is Group B, the bottom half, I believe, from yesterday's session. And they will be the drivers that are hopefully not seeing themselves in the bottom group for the pre-final. But it starts, unfortunately, with a better start than that. That is not good news for the 838. One of the AEM Karting EOS karts has come to a halt right out of turn number 3 on that short chute. The rest of the field seems to have gotten away cleanly for this outlap to begin bringing everything up. And KA Junior first of the line will be Landon Boer on the MPG Motorsports Kart Republic, the 820 all by himself. First driver below the cut line in practice. So that would make him think that, well, I'm probably one of the fastest drivers still in this quali. Better just go ahead and try to poke my own hole and drive away from everyone versus backing off to find a dancing partner.
We'll have to see if Boer's able to improve upon what we've seen in the final practice. Absolutely here. Right now has the sizable gap before anybody else can even reach him. So it's going to be all about the solo pace. And that's the thing. A lot of these drivers we've seen prefer to have that rather than the carrot on the stick and the grouping of draft to potentially hold them back. 45 ones to start, by the way, for him. Some of these other drivers, though, running as far back as 2 seconds off the tempo to save tires. Talon Laney jumping way up the board as Jake Zende also does the same in the 852 kart. So some of these drivers really jumping up early, but expecting the fast times to come up once again in a few laps before these tires get to full song. What happens this time around. It looks like Boer was able to get some improvement, but Isaac Payne able to go up to the 44 ones right there. Already some of these drivers moving up their times by an extra second or two as Slaney Gutierrez now. Ruben Gutierrez, the first to break through in the 43.9s over Resende. So a lot of these drivers continuing to gain speed as this session goes on, as we've seen. These drivers continue to build upon themselves. This big gaggle of karts, though, some of these drivers getting some happy feet already moving along behind the 802 kart.
Yeah, Maui Angel and that Arcane Motorsports Tony kart, and we got a spinner right on the exit of the corner, and that's just put the entire field into a melee, facing head-on traffic. A pucker factor moment right there for a couple of them. Not how you want to start your qualifying session. One of the Franklin Motorsports Merlins involved, that's Brandon Saraki, and he's able to get away decent. Callan Berghofer, top of the boards now here in this group. Payne into second as we try to keep tabs on them and pick up some more here in this opening lap skirmish there. That's one of the Rocket Racing Company drivers trying to make some moves. I believe Resende in the 852.
Yeah, mind you, Berghofer, a two-time Mini Swift champion at Atlanta Motorsport Park, also has some good finishes and things like the Trackhouse Championship, a top 3 run in that. Looking solid so far to be able to break away on the timing sheets, but this grouping, see on screen, starting to deal with some traffic as some of these karts try and reconfigure themselves with one slow in the final corner.
Yeah.
No changes up at the top except for one. The 827 jumps up a few tenths.
Big lap out of Arthur Barbe on the LN kart for PER Racing. And it looked like one of the Ryan Perry Motorsport machines was the driver that went up and around in the last turn. Here's a look at that moment there. Just a spin, nowhere for Brandon Saraki to go. And then one of the RPM Tony karts goes around following. Not ideal for sure here in qualifying as we take a look back at that AKR instant replay. So the B group for quali still underway. Gutierrez back to the top now. Arthur Barbe to second. Kai Mars third on the 823. We pick up a few more of them here, but your quickest is the 891. Here's the 814 of Callan Berghofer on the Aiken Racing LN kart. Puerto Rican out of Atlanta, Georgia, with his new program that had launched earlier this year. He'd been slowly hoping to build a race team program, a travel program over the last couple of years based out of Atlanta Motorsports Park. And finally, he, I'm sure, is beaming ear to ear to have that blue and white tent at the national stage. on the regular season. This is a debut weekend for them with the Stars Series. Callan Berghofer, we're used to seeing him run with the AKT Racing team this weekend here with Porter and the Aiken Racing Group. Top of the boards for a moment. They've been since passed by Kai Mars, who has gone to the top now by a 10th over Gutierrez, and then Arthur Barbe as well. The 846 we're trailing back along with here in this kind of middle group, and bouncing around to try and show everyone and give everyone a little bit of love. Find your favorite driver. There is the 809. That is Leo Da Silva, one of the Racing Edge Motorsports drivers aboard the Cosmic, leading a pack here into the last turn with 50 seconds to go in this qualifying session. Not a lot of time left as the field is headed towards what could be their last lap at speed, maybe one more if they're lucky, to try and put this session in the books and hopefully punch themselves well above what some of the fast drivers in the next group will be doing.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting is what the crossover is going to be once that air group goes, because with that air grouping of drivers, it's going to be extremely difficult with some of the top drivers, mind you, in the entire day in the other pairing. It's going to add a lot more pressure potentially for those in this grouping. See if they can get the best times out there. Looks like any changes? No, Mars didn't improve. There was improvement for Laney and Gutierrez, though. However, there's still a 10th back as the checker flag starts to wave in the session.
Kai Mars all over Remy and Gel this time by for them. I think they might get another if they want it. Kai's obviously going to try and take it. He'll go by him at the end of the backstretch. He's still well to the good right now. Talon Laney next best again on the BJRLN Kart. In second, Gutierrez still third. With Kai making that pass on Maui, I don't know if this last lap's going to be all too good. Braden Westfall joining the top 10 now behind Isaac Payne. Closely matched group. It's going to change a lot at the line. Arthur Barbe, Leo Da Silva with some big laps late. To the line for Mars. It won't be enough, and he'll get pipped by Ruben Gutierrez to the top by a 10th and a half.
What a flyer for Gutierrez to close out the session, get himself in a good spot in qualifying. Able to time up the window just right after about 10 laps around the circuit. Gutierrez in the last moments taking the pole by a 10th and a half just about. You also have Laney, Berghofer also up there in the top 5. Barbe in the top 5 for that session. Some of the drivers that started at the top of the board, like Resende, finished all the way back in 13th once everyone started to really push on their karts there.
The rest of the drivers here in your top 15 from the B group, again, these are just only half of the names you'll see in total in KA Junior. It goes down to Ben Gleberman in the 863, Lage Powers there in the 851, Robert Lash, Ahmed Mustafa, Connor Corsi. All will probably end up, well, they're all going to end up even and odd. I don't know if you'll see many changes from the fast group that's lining up here, if anyone will go any worse. So assuming that they all are able to make at least a lap or two at speed, they'll probably get the back half of it. How good will that first lap or that best lap by Ruben Gutierrez hold? If you go off of warm-up times, it's not bad at all. 43.3 was the best that the juniors were able to do in the warm-up sessions. However, again, most drivers, knowing that the track's going to be so cold and only somewhat of an accurate read, probably went new rubber in the happy hour or the final and fourth practice session and may not have gone sticker tires, and that's typically a couple of a 10th boost. So sticker MG tires now for the fast group as they get ready to leave the grid for qualifying. Could take us to the 42-second bracket for the first time this weekend in KA Junior. On top of the fact, of course, the track's building more heat. The air temps are slowly rising, albeit with a windy and chilly morning here in Concord, North Carolina. We're going to maybe pick up a 10th or two, maybe a whole lot more if they really get a good lap together. But let's take a look here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway's kart track here. 15 turns in total. From Concord, North Carolina. This legendary circuit was brought back to life just a handful of years ago. It kicks things off with a number of 90-degree corners there through the turn 1, 2, 3, 4 section. A short chute that leads into turns 5 and 6 at turn 6 passing zone. Arguably probably your second major passing zone on the racetrack. You don't really have a long enough brake marker going into 5 to make something happen, but we've seen a couple of surprise moves in 6, even sometimes in turn 7. And then down at the end of the backstretch there, turn 8's always a great opportunity. turn number 10, that double left-hander, and then, of course, that last turn, turn 14 before the dogleg at 15. Everything comes down to how you play that hairpin, how you defend it, how you can cross someone up, or if you pay close attention to two drivers in front of you, cross them both over if they go all the way down to the bottom side.
Or slip and slide all the way into the grass, as we've seen in a couple classes last year.
Well, that too, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. With some contact, that opens up some doors, absolutely, for that final corner. But looks like our final grouping for the KA Junior side, at least, about to hit the racetrack and are zipping onto the circuit here. And a lot of big names from the top of the board in this group. Amongst them, Whalen, Adams, Pettit. Also throw in Parker Ives that we've seen dominate in his class last year. That's been around mid-pack so far today in this grouping. We're about to see who really sets the tone for qualifying.
Ryan Perry Motorsport Colors leading us out, and they are quick to it. Not one to wait at all. Nate Golseth and Tristan Murphy are trying to get away. Forrest Adams going to hold on to their coattails on the outlap, but this fast group is pretty widely spread across the racetrack, so that could play into the end of the session here, Justin, of if some of the drivers that went out towards the back of the grid are unable to get all of the laps that the first few drivers will. They might get one extra lap, and that could make all the difference of a couple positions. And then a couple positions in qualifying starts you a little bit higher in the heats. You might be able to stay away from the mess. So Nate Golseth takes a look over his shoulder there. Tristan Murphy still a little ways back here on this first lap at speed. Forrest Adams was all over him there. Benham Abernathy on the Holtz driver development. Yellow and white and green, Gillard. And then right behind him is one of the TKG Bureau Arts, Nico Katowski in the 892. Emerson Lane leading the pack of three back there. With the first lap going down, Oliver Paluto with a lap that'll put him to the top of the board with Caleb Tarter. I believe they may be right behind Benham Abernathy, so if they're catching up to or that group, then or right behind Emerson Lane, if they catch up to this main group, they could be putting some real heaters in. Let's see them. That's that three-car pack just back from Katowski as the leaders trade spots. At least that's where I'm guessing Oliver Paluto may find himself, son of Miguel Paluto, a multifaceted professional racing driver that's looking to try and help pass along some of that knowledge to the next generation. In Oliver's first lap, how well is it going to fare here on lap number 2? It'll drop and then reclaim the top spot with a 43.90.
A lot of improvement for the practice session where he was a little bit lower earlier on today, in that he was in the 43.7s as his fast lap. Paluto right now in the 43.9s. So expecting a lot more speed kick up this time, if not next time by for these karts though. It's going to be a lot of pressure for that 887 kart to try and keep up and keep some track position here. You see them in the midst of that choo-choo train that's formed up here as they enter the final corners.
You saw Paluto bail out of line. He didn't want to be that close to the rest of them. He wanted to have some clear real estate. So Oliver Paluto now will not stay on top, and Forrest Adams will take that top spot away only for a moment. Big lap out of Lorenco Varela in the 864. He's further back on the racetrack. Ryan Mort with a good lap along with John Antonino Jr. The MPG Kart Republics are working together, and also a little ways back from that primary group that we've been following for a good part of this session. Here they are. That's Mort in the 812. I think ahead of him is probably Lorenco. No, that's actually Valentino Santi in the 871. Lorenco Varela in the 864. One of the many Brazilian transplants here in the U.S. There's Antonino Jr. with Max Weiland behind him. Let's see what kind of lap they can put together. This time by, it'll be lap number 4, and at the loop, Antonino to second. Derek Wargo with a big lap on the 878. He'll go up to P2. Big lap out of the Louisiana native.
And as expected, the times are getting faster than last group. In fact, faster than practice by 0.3 of a second with the newer tires on these karts. All of them just getting up to snuff and getting zoomed around here. Now the thing is, what will the 818 do? That's Max Weiland. We talked about him towards the top of some of the sessions yesterday. Looks to be getting a decent tow right now, to the point where he's all over the back end of that 893 of John Antonio at the moment. Antonino right now leading them off. Let's see if there's any movement. Pettit had gone to the flats. Max goes up to the top of the board, a 43 flat with a lot of toe with the help of that red and black card.
Yeah, that was a big lap for him. Let's see if it gets any better this time around. They're going to get another chance to go even faster with a big push down the back straightaway. Will it pay off? Will it be enough for him? Oh no, he'll go by as Antonino lets him on through. So Antonino would rather follow for now. Perfectly fine, I think, for Max. He's going to try and at least run this lap to completion. Big lap out of Parker Ives. How about it for the rookie? The Swift Stars hands down winner from 2024 now moves into the top 5 with a big lap for Ryan Perry Motorsport on his junior debut. 5th now holding as Travis Pettit and Isaac Malcutt join the fray once again, shuffling the top 5. Malcutt to the top for Mike Doty Racing and the LN Kart crew. There's Ives in the 848. He's trailing one of the Jay Howard driver development Kart Republics. That looks to be, I'm not 100% on that one there. That is is that the 888 machine? Side by side out of the corner. That won't be ideal. Indy Anderson, 11th currently for Indy.
Yeah, and after that bit of contact, at that point, may as well say, I'm going to reset, try and get a bigger toe here, get some breathing space to the front end of the nose because of how close they got in terms of the pace differential. Ives looking like he's getting a lot better compared to yesterday, where it was a lot of a learning experience with this kart to be able to build things up after his dominating performances last year, now having to work in the middle of the top 10 for the most part to mid-pack on pace. Ives seems to look comfortable. Does have some club experience as well when it comes to that side of things, when it comes to Ives, as these drivers have 20 seconds on the board. Looks like no error changes so far this time by in terms of the pylon as some of these drivers start to reach the peak on their tires and the peak in terms of their pace. At the moment, will there be any change when they come around for the final time around? Will have some of these drivers cooled off their tires to get something in? Let's find out here. You see the 829 amongst those. Travis Pettit leading the way and on in clean air. Getting some pull to the 872. Abernathy top of the board. Now it's Malcutt jumping to second as Pettit falls all the way down to 6th to end the session.
Travis Pettit dropping down. He'll drop even further as Lorenko Varela puts a late lap in. So does Oliver Nabert into 9th here. Last couple laps to the line. Max Weiland will go to 9th. No other changes. Benham, Abernathy, pole in KA Junior qualifying provisionally. Isaac Malcutt 2nd. Murphy, Adams, Edgar Rodriguez into the top 5. Then Pettit, Parker Ives and crew. Look how close the times are. Less than a full 10th for the top 6 drivers in qualifying. 2/10 separates your top 10. 2.5 separates your top 15. That is as close as you can get it. And by 14 thousandths of a second, Benham Abernathy scores the pole for Holtz driver development. And Isaac Malcutt for MDR, their second. 5 different programs, 5 different teams inside of your top 5, all OTK chassis. But Holtz, MDR, RPM, BJR, and PER Racing for Edgar Rodriguez, your top 5.
A nice close spread. Abernathy at that final moment able to get to the top of the board, and that's going to really build some confidence. Abernathy had not been towards the top of some of the practice groupings during the week, but now get the chance to celebrate potentially that pole time here. Once again, 14 1,000ths is close, but some of the drivers that started off strong, like Paluto back in 19th, Jordan Martin at the bottom of the pylon, fortunately 28th in qualifying A's group in the end of the session. What a day so far it's been, as once again, qualifying already coming to a close for these drivers. You see Abernathy getting set up in the scale line in the midst of his celebration for that top time.
Yeah, he was just looking, I think they're trying to signal, hey, are we 5th? Are we in the top 5? No, We are even better than that. Benham Abernathy, pole here for the Hotes DD Tony Kart driver, and I believe as he gets his helmet off, Alexander Searle will be chatting with our top qualifier in KA Junior.
Thanks, Xander. Benham, P1 on the final lap, dude. How'd you get it together?
I kind of just followed Forrest and tried my best and pushed as hard as I could.
All right, so we got a tough field here. A lot of go-karts within the same 10th or so. So describe to me what you're kind of looking forward to these next couple heat races.
I'm looking forward to just staying consistent and not crash to make sure you stay in the pre-final A.
Tell me what, Josh is kind of talking to you guys back in the tent before heading into qualifying, heading to the heat races.
He's been talking to us on make sure you're holding onto the wheel, especially at a grippy track like this one, and just staying consistent and having the draft.
Thanks, Benham.
Thank you.
Back to you guys.
As he'll push forward into the scale line, K Junior to a halt now, and we move on to the Swift Stars division already. Holden Myers leading Santiago Orioli, who did not get a single lap turned in the warm-up session here. Justin, he is kind of flying a little blind into qualifying for Swift Stars here.
Yeah, we know that he's fast, though. That's the thing. Orioli, we've seen him perform in championships. He's also been in several sessions from yesterday at the top of the board. So Orioli, starting off with a 46-1, is going to be top 3 amongst the drivers so far and leading a whole pack of karts that he's got in his choo-choo train. Let's see if Orioli is going to be able to get the speed down after that situation from the practice as he continues. He wants one of the drivers getting some draft off, Holden Myers at the moment. Just looking along and seeing him just follow the tire tracks, make sure he gets the speed down just right. A little bit more tighter apex, looks to be a little bit quicker than Myers this lap with that corner exit. Third time's coming on through. The 191 to the top of the board with a 43.3. Orioli was in the 43.4s, a 10th of a second difference already top of the board. They are really close in terms of qualifying early on in the session.
There's a look at Cameron Johnson in the 111. Franklin Motorsports Merlin kart. New livery for them as well. Both MPG and Franklin Motorsports giving us some new colors to check out here. Black and gold and green, or black and orange and green for the FMS boys. And Cameron's in a great spot for this lap here. I think this could be another leap forward up the leaderboard. 6th and 2/10 off the top spots last time. How good of a lap is this one for Cameron? It's going to go to the pole, only for a moment. Jaden Francisco and Cade Wolf with a quick answer. Maxwell Macha as well. Shuffles Johnson back to 4th, but that was a great lap towing up to the back of Orioli and Holden Myers. New top qualifier, Maxwell Macha on the Velocity Racing Sodi. And Jaden Francisco, I'd say even more impressive and more dangerous for the field. He is all by himself right now here, Justin, and he is second, less than a 10th off the pace of the 174.
Yes, indeed, some success in the Florida Winter Tour, success when it comes to the Mini Swifts in the 2025 US PKS Daytona Super Grand Prix as well. Absolutely flying throughout the springtime, and that's carried over with his pace here today in this one. The question is going to be, will that remain the case here? He did improve, but it's Macha who's even better. Nicholas Mose now up to second as well, within 33/100ths of a second of the top of the board.
Nicholas Mose in the 133. Can he go any better? Where does he find himself on the racetrack? It looks like, based on the time charts here, he's kind of around middle of the field, but he's actually towing off the back of Maxwell Macha. So Macha here, Mose is right behind that LN kart, I believe, just going by. Macha right behind Enzo De Janeiro. This is a fast little trio right here. Enzo 4th, Macha top qualifier currently, and Mose behind there, I believe maybe on the OKP colors to the line. Let's see it. Nothing different that time for Mose, but Maxwell Macha did improve a little.
Yes, enough though to be able to hold on in front of a hard charging 190. Enzo De Janeiro able to jump up with an 11/1000ths of a second in the session at Paralympic kart. Running out of time to be able to try and get the track position though. see if there's one more lap in for Mancha here, a couple more laps really to get things done as time progresses. That 190's been a really good drafting bait for this pack. This has been the fast pack you're seeing on screen with what they're doing to squeeze down for De Janeiro to try and get a little bit more aerodynamic. No improvements this time for anyone in that pack. No improvements for anybody except for some of the drivers at the edge of the top 10.
Yeah, nothing changing there. Still, there's time left to go, though, in the session. You could reset right now and end up in a decent spot if you're smart about it with a minute to go, because you're going to get, if you're in the case of Enzo De Janeiro, you could back off if you think it's going to be better to tow off the back of Mancha for a shot at the pole. On the other end, Cameron Johnson's gone to the lead of that main group of four, so lots of drivers to kind of keep eyes on. I believe that is Cade Wolf in the 154 Roto-Rooter Timmy Tech Comp Kart. He's by himself. De Janeiro's towing off the back of him. Wolf is 5th overall. That can kind of show you a little bit of what the draft can do for the Swift Stars drivers. 2.5 tenths, call it maybe 2 tenths. Give a little bit of a nod to Enzo for just having a slight edge pace-wise, but still, this backstretch, this run, even the rest of the racetrack has some moments where you're full throttle for these drivers. I mean, they're full on the gas through that sweeper right there. So that straightaway really goes all the way to this brake zone here. And if you're able to kind of start your lap 3 or 4 car lengths behind someone, tow up to the back of them by the end of it, you can get a huge lap. And I think that's what's in store potentially for De Janeiro and Mancha. I won't say the same right now for Jaden Francisco. He got held up there by the nitro kart in front of him of Jake Manalio. To the line for them all. Any other movements, any other changes? No, nothing there. Mancha will hold out of that group. Will it hold to the end? The last few drivers from the fast group will hit the line now. And as they cross the loop, no further adjustments needed. Oh no, 2 together. Who do we have there in the 110? One of the MPG Kart Republics has gone into the side of another. And that has caused some issues here.
Good session, though, for Mancha. As you see the rest of the board, Daniel Guerra of note with Dominic Gatta 17th, 19th that stand out to me. Mike Chinner back in 22nd also stands out. The rest of these drivers scroll along on screen. 30 entries in this field. A 2-second spread throughout this pack for these drivers here today as the Swift Stars all sorted out with Mancha setting the tone. Talked about his hot start. Gets himself some good track position for later on today.
Yeah, great stuff for Maxwell. So Swift Stars qualifying is completed now. And Maxwell Mancha can take a breather. Top qualifier, Velocity Racing, Sodi Kart. The 174 will be leading your field to green, and I think Max is trying to keep that time and data to himself. And as he helps up out of the kart, Alexander Searle will be down there with them to catch the instant reaction of him going to the top of the pylon.
Engine on the grid, so Mike is going to hold up here. But Max, first first and foremost, we might need some lessons on ultimately. How good does this pole position feel?
Feels great. Last time in Texas I got first, so I did it again, so I'm really proud of my first place, and yeah.
Yesterday was pretty eventful in terms of just the weather. How was the day yesterday for you into today?
Well, yesterday was a little great, but you know, we did some changes to the kart, and it was now today it's really nice, so it's like the kart is perfect and everything.
This track races pretty good in the micro and mini categories. What are some of the challenges that you guys as kids face around this place?
I think the challenges that I face is the kids around me who are really like competitive, and you know, you just gotta think and you know, just pass them.
Lastly here, a big contingency under the Sodi tent. Who do you want to thank for this pole?
I want to thank Top Engines. Thank you for the engine. Sodi, my mechanic, which is my dad, my mom, and that's it.
Congrats, Max.
Thank you.
Back to you guys.
Thank you very much. As currently we are in the midst of more qualifying. It's KA Stars qualifying B. That's now on the racetrack. Get themselves sorted out with Peyton Phillips leading the way in the pack. Brock Knowles jumps to the top of the board. We're opening laps for the KA Stars. So amongst this pack right now, lined up here, Daniel Perez, Hamza Adbar. You have Talon Drake amongst the top runners. Justin Musico's also in this grouping of drivers here as they continue to build up speed and get themselves sorted out here early in this qualifying. Phillips looking solid at least in the opening lap.
So I guess I should correct myself, Justin. I thought that we were looking at the groups and Peyton Phillips was in the fast group, but evidently the groups they went on for warm-up were the qualifying groups. And here he is finding himself in the bottom half after final practice. He was disqualified actually in happy hour. Came in underweight on the scale, so that's what's got the 987 in our first group on the racetrack. Drew James as well on the TKG Bureau Art, also underweight in final practice. It's a disqualification. And most drivers try to make sure that they run a couple pounds above the minimum weight limit so they have cushion room, but every once in a while you just get caught out, and it's an unfortunate circumstance that has put them on the back foot to start the weekend. But if they can maximize the session, there's obviously a couple of fast ones around them. Justin Music gets kind of out of shape there with some help from Autumn Fisher. And that's going to bring Danny Perez and that bright orange DPC Motorsports X-Prix to the rear bumper, along with another one of the Arcane entries with the white helmet just trailing him, trying to see who that is. I believe that might be Hamza Anbar, potentially, in the 986.
Yes, it is, as some of these drivers get on by Fisher. Fisher electing to get as far back as they can right now in the group. Like that 982 is getting a great show. Daniel Perez all over the back end of the kart in front, trying to just build up speed right now, all while Fisher's been kind of just a leapfrog marker for so far in this pack. So let's see here if there's any changes. Sabo up to second, it looks like. As you see the rest of the drivers talking things over to the lower corner of your screen for the other pack of competitors coming up here.
That's right. That is a look down to Oliver Hodgson, Chase Buscalia, the Macron Motorsports drivers, just briefing themselves a little bit before they head out onto the racetrack for qualifying here, as we continue to trail on Autumn Fisher's TB card entry. But for the moment right now, Peyton Phillips still holding station on top of the time charts with a lap at a 43.207. Again, not a big pickup at all from the warm-up sessions, so far at least. There still is 2.5 minutes to find more speed, but I would say at this point, these drivers have enough experience to turn the tires on in the first couple of laps and know what pressures to put themselves at to get that as well. I don't think you'll see maybe too many changes in terms of the lap time going much faster. I think you're probably just going to see it stay around the low 43s at this rate. So with that in mind, how much longer do you stay on the racetrack if you're Peyton Phillips? Obviously, he's going to finish this lap out, but he knows that if he starts to feel it fade off, if the lap time doesn't improve this time, it'd be a sign to go to the pit lane. It does, though. 43.15, he finds another 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, felt really confident with just getting there at the final corners there, it looked like, as well in the weight shift. Starting to get a lot of curving this time around. That's going to slow him down a little bit on speed for the 987. Nearly put some tires into the grass. Good run so far for Peyton Phillips this session. No one else has been able to break into the 43.1s quite yet. Looks like Phillips at least going to just finish things out with the way things look. Not coming on in that time by either.
Yeah, nothing into the pit lane out of any, or no one into the pit lane. Yet still, Phillips that time slows a tick, a couple hundredths off. Good lap out of Lucas Zabo. The RPM Tony Kart's going to leapfrog Raheem Alibi to go to second. There's Raheem on screen in the white suit, the Rocket Racing Company driver, and then a big line of karts behind him here. He's gotten away from this main pack. He seems to be in a decent position to at least put a couple clean laps in to close this session out, as Jared Clark there, bottom corner of your screen, is watching on, trying to see anything else he can get intel-wise before hopping behind the wheel of his BJR machine for the fast group in quali. 20 seconds to go. The first few drivers here that were out of the pit lane are going to get a grand total of 8 laps and now make it 9 if they want it. 15 seconds and counting. Only some of that group is going to get to run more. The back half of this qualifying group will not get lap number 9. How critical will that be? No one really went too much better in the top 10. Only a couple of them did, and it was marginal. Brock Knowles improved a little, Autumn Fisher a little. Alibi did retake second. He picked up a couple hundredths. He might be able to do some more damage on this 9th and final lap as Justin Music leads this group last time around with Perez in tow. Zabo is there on the blue helmet for RPM. Drew James is there, and then Brock Knowles, who is third. Great session so far for his national debut in the 902. To the line, KA Stars, Group B. Music will go better, so will Hamza Anbar. And a close top 10 look here with 2.5 tenths separating them.
He putting up a great time in the 949 kart, though, in the 43.2s. Some of the drivers watch along, talk with their team members here before they now get in their karts. Grouping A going to have some decent bars to cross over here with some of the drivers that were in that last group, but keep in mind, some of those names to keep in mind, like Jarrett Clark, going to be someone to watch for as you take a look at your results for qualifying B.
Yeah, Raheem Alibi at a 43.222. Peyton Phillips looks like he may have had a lap time get disallowed as a penalty. The 987 has been pushed down to third, and as those are getting implemented now, if that holds, it's going to drop him back. He got to that 150. I don't know what that could be for. All results provisional on our screen, but already adjusted as we can see. Phillips from the top down to third. That means the new benchmark is a 43.22 for KA Stars drivers to try and tackle. And the fast group of them are geared up and ready for their qualifying session. Following this group, of course, it'll be time to get ready for OKN-J Warm Up. They'll go immediately after, along with OKN Stars and Pro Stars. The Mazda Motorsports Pro Show divisions have been eagerly awaiting for this track to warm up and for their chance to get back out onto it after qualifying yesterday afternoon. That OKN-J class might be the only one closer than that KA Stars qualifying group in terms of lap times that we have seen so far here this weekend, Justin. Just a couple of tenths separating those young superstars, 20-plus, over double the entries from a year ago. It's a good sign of growth, and it may not be at the 55 number of KA Junior or 50-plus in KA Stars, but it's still a healthy grid with a lot of talent at the front of it. But for KA Stars, as the engines come to life, it's anyone's guess who's going to be able to knock off Raheem Alibi here. There's a lot of talent on this grid.
Yeah, I'm really keeping an eye on Jarrett Clark and so Vid Montien in this pack to see what they can do, because we've seen Clark be top of the charts in each of his sessions. Each of these groupings, when it comes to the second pairings, has seen Clark absolutely blistering quick. So we'll have to see if he's going to keep that pattern going here, as these drivers now get all set to go here and get zoomed onto the racetrack for their qualifying group. That 916 going to be something to watch for. You look at Hudson Brown right now leading his pack right now. 999 also working off the back. That's Oren Marek that's just behind in that group as they start things off for this session.
So Ibrahim Dean, Hudson Brown, Oliver Marak, Davin Roberts, all out there from the way that Happy Hour splits the groups here. Unlike some of the other classes like Micro and Mini Swift, you're still allowed to line yourself on the grid however you choose. So those three drivers that are the first out onto the circuit, they elected to go out first from the grid. You're able to pick your own spot. On a lot of races we've been going to recently on the National Tour, you're gridded and sent onto the racetrack as if it's a race session for qualifying, based on how you fared in the practices to split the groups. But at Stars, you're allowed to pick wherever you want to go. You can find a dancing partner on the grid versus having to reshuffle on the racetrack. If you'd like to go out first, though, you're also more than welcome to. You just got to be at the grid nice and early so that spot doesn't get taken. Oliver Marak, Davin Roberts, they've obviously wanted to go towards the front. The same with the likes of Hudson Brown. Oliver Hodgson's opening lap is decent. Jared Clark's as well. And a big lap out of Ryan Crouch in the 955. As we watch now, Hodgson leading that group down the backstretch with Chase Buscalia right behind him here. One of the most highly decorated drivers in the paddock of 260 plus here is Oliver Hodgson, a former IME International Final champion. And some of the young guns getting after it a little bit. Enzo Vidmontien getting a wheel there from Hudson Brown as he tried to blend into line on the SLA Kart Republic, and it's a game of leapfrog. Oliver Marak now the next one to drop back.
Drop back all the way to the end of the podium spots right now. Hodgson top of the board in that 927 Kart though. Jared Clark, as expected, however, just charged up, took the top spot in the session as some of the other drivers start to squabble a little bit, including Rex still trying to find his way around the 915. Davin Roberts now. All of this is with the pace being set by Clark, backing up what he's been able to showcase throughout this session. Lots of experience when it comes to the British side of things. A LAME World Final winner, Rotax World Final winner, now up second on the board as some of the drivers reshuffle. Rivera jumps to second. Murray jumps up to sixth of note as well.
This is still with a lot of time to play out here in qualifying. Let's check in with Jared Clark, new driver on the top of the board. Right there, the 916. 4/10 clear on everyone else. Granted, they're in kind of a battle pack right now. Clark waiting a good bit off the grid to get clear racetrack. He's in a prime position to put in just lap after lap with clean tires, open road, no traffic in sight. This is picture perfect for the Brandon Jarsacrack Racing LN car driver as he rounds through the S's and heads towards the last turn. The only downside to this potentially will be for Jared Clark looking at maybe one less lap than everyone, but that all is going to vary based on, again, how they maximize the outlap or not, and how he closes up towards the end of this session. But still, with KA Stars' opening group, only a couple drivers went better on that last lap. We know the peak is going to be around the middle of this 8 to 9 lap run, so I think he's probably risk reward in more of the reward category. 2.5 minutes left. Oliver Marak next best in second. Sam Avrutsky with a great run so far here, sitting third. Henry Taylor fifth. Vidmontien now jumping up as there's Avrutsky on the AEM Karting EOS kart. He's trailing the top qualifier, and it's going to tow his way back up to P3.
Avrutsky looking very solid. Mauricio Hernandez just jumped him, however, with a dead even time for second with Marak. This driver's really pushing the tempo with under 2 minutes to go right now. Now, talking about things as things progress, though, it's going to be the question mark of Will anybody be able to close up 3/10 now to get to Clark? And a couple of these drivers, including Brutsky, just electing to go to the back so they can go for one more hard charge rather than stay where they're at. Try and see if they can get a carrot on the stick method working here.
And so Vidmontien, we saw him dropping back in that group earlier. He just got his first push lap in at speed and just went to second. So good lap for the SLA kart racing driver. And now, as we watch Vrutsky here, he started to fall outside of the tow window off the back of Jared Clark. That will hurt him a little bit because now he'll be all by himself. So his best laps may already be in the rearview mirror. On the other end, the rest of the field dialing things up in the closing stages of qualifying, trying to see if they can push the 924 back, get themselves a few more spots in this session. That main group, I think, is going to be one to watch with 50 seconds to go that we were watching earlier, knowing that there's going to be some fast drivers coming out of it. Chase Buscaglia, prime example, trailing that group, following his coach and teammate and Oliver Hodgson around, and now following Davin Roberts. Buscaglia has gone up to second on the Macron Motorsports Comp Kart. Trailing him as well looks to be another Comp Kart entry. That's Henry Taylor, who currently sits in 7th. Hodgson himself, leading that group for most of this session, is only 11th in this group alone, and they are, granted, going a good bit quicker than what we saw out of the slower group, so the top 10, top 11 should all be the overall top 11. In fact, it goes back to 18th right now, so that goes all the way down to Joshua Sumvalis, who is at a 43.176. But Hodgson, still not an ideal starting position for the heats. It would be a 6th place starting spot in Heat 1 or A or B. This last lap will need to be big. Jared Clark's already pulled into the pit lane. Watching along. The 916 on the hot seat. He had a big lap at the end here that added on to the margin. Over 3/10 back to Ryan Crouch. This group is passing so much, I don't see them getting a lot out of it. You see Junaid Dean and Buscaglia getting together. Let's see if Hodgson gets something on this last lap. He does not. Hudson Brown does. He'll go to 10th. Checkers out. And the reaction, it's not quite yet official, but now we can call it. Jared Clark, by a full 3/10 of a second, is your top qualifier, over 50 plus in KA Stars, and the smile on his face tells it all.
Jared, P1 there, 3/10. I gotta say, for a guy, we see you in Briggs, you were here a couple weeks ago, right? What was kind of the idea behind just going by yourself, going solo there?
I don't know. I mean, this whole weekend, I know we only got 2 practices yesterday because we didn't want to go out in the wet, but, you know, I just felt so quick just by myself and just kind of rolling on my own. So, I mean, I just went what was comfortable to me, and, you know, it went good.
All right, so for a track notorious for, you know, 2-3 karts faster than one, especially in KA, I mean, what do you think you are going to have to do in the heat races to kind of keep these guys behind?
Just going to have to, you know, do what I do and just kind of try to keep it clean the whole time and, you know, kind of see what happens. But I'm going to try my best, do my best, and, you know, hopefully we can do good.
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah.
Top qualifier in KA Stars, Jared Clark over Ryan Crouch, Henry Taylor. Oliver Hodgson did get a lap in at the very end. It just didn't hit until right as we went to the interview. That last lap around for Hodgson, putting him 4th overall. Vidmontien back to 5th. Avrutsky 6th. David Baker 7th. A very impressive performance here from Ryan Crouch in the 955. Chase Buscaglia, Hudson Brown, Davin Roberts. Single duty this weekend, but rookie debut. 10th, it looked like, and that will hold. So Jared Clark, though, the gap more than big enough. Multiple laps over. We know that one's for certain, Justin. He'll be leading us to green later today.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, absolutely, when it comes to the KA Stars. But guess what? We have our warm-ups getting all set to go here for the OKN Juniors as they get all set, a part of the Pro Show, to make sure their karts are all set to go here in the next little bit.
Karts on to the racetrack as they begin to fire out of the grid. This is the Stars Championship Series Pro Show presented by Mazda Motorsports with OKN-J, OKN Stars, and Pro Stars Warm Up now kicking things off with the juniors. Moto 1 for all three of the headline classes will roll today at 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:10 a.m. Pacific. And then Moto number 2 closes out our afternoon and into the sunset hours of the day at 5:10 p.m. Eastern. But for OKN Junior, Max Weiland sporting the number 3 plate. One driver following along here around the back sector and towards the scale line on the Magic Kart. There are a lot of OKN Junior drivers that have already hit the racetrack, a handful that are solely focusing on the 125 category, but a good chunk of them are pulling double duty between OKN Junior and KA Junior. How beneficial will that be? Well, this weekend's going to magnify it. At a track like this, Justin, there is no other on-track activity besides when the touring series come to town. You can't test here the week before. You can't practice on Thursday, and Friday was wet, and sometimes you get moments like this as well. Issues for Jack Katowski as well as the 108 machine coming together, entering the final turn. 2 of your 22 will get 0 laps in qualifying. Their session's done. With these bump start motors, you cannot restart them once on the racetrack. You have to get a running start like a bobsled team, and for the sake of driver safety, if you do stall it, you're out on the circuit, you're not able to refire. So they're out. We're down to 20 for qualifying. Antonino to the line. He'll go to the top. Weiland will go to 5th. 6th, actually, there at the line.
Yeah, just trying to make sure last kinks are out before they go for the Pro Show for the motos. That's the key thing, making sure everything's ready to go. We've seen Ashton Woon in particular look extremely good yesterday. They set that pole time for that Kart. Look at John Antonino amongst the drivers with that double duty you mentioned. Looking to set the tone here in this warm-up wing in the 2s and 3s at the moment. Tyrone Kemper second in this session as well. Oh, but it's going to be a difficult time, I think, once they go racing here. It's about making sure you have the kart where you want it, the setup where you want it, those tires where you need those temperatures to be and those pressures to be. It's so critical. Make sure you get that all tuned up just right for when you go racing, because for these drivers, they're going to have plenty of time to battle, yes, with the time for each of the motos, but you want to make sure that's all ready to go before you start said race.
Yeah, you don't want to be in full-on limbo mode, not really knowing how good you could be, not really knowing where your piece is. You want to be able to be already dialed for qualifying and maximize those heat races, being proactive, making adjustments to try and get ahead of the racetrack or look for extra speed. You don't want to be using those motos with only 2 of them before the main event to try and set any extra correct, I should say, any issues from earlier in the day where you missed it in qualifying or missed it in warm-up. But that's going to be the case for everyone minus the top qualifiers because they'll be chasing them. Let's see what Tristan Murphy does this time by. He had to get by Sebastian Rist in that CS55 Kartworks USA kart. Rist now down to 12th, and Murphy in the 111 could only go to 10th with that pass. Was 9th, now been bumped to 10th by Leonardo Saravalli. Jude Thurmalaswamy up and into 6th. John Antonino Jr. still top of the pylon on the MPG Factory Kart Republic. Then Tyrone Kemper Jr., then Ashton Woon, Cole Medeiros, Marco Samet. Little bumper there from Sebastian Rist to Murphy. That's going to hurt both of them on this lap around, so I don't know if you'll see much better out of the Ryan Perry Motorsport Tony Kart. Maybe something coming to the line. 2 minutes and some change to go for OKN Junior qualifying as we head down for some intel with Alexander Searle.
Finn, you've driven this package once before in his debut year at MCC. 2 years later now, anything different in the package that you feel?
No, not a whole lot different. Just still messing with gearing and getting that all figured out. Feels the same, but just got some work to do.
So yesterday, I mean, you're a ways off, 7/10 off, not where we kind of expect you to be. What are some of the things that you feel like are setting you back?
Yeah, gearing for sure. We tried going up some to get some more bottom because these things kind of lack a little bottom, but it just killed the top, and we just had no motor after that. But I think we got it figured out for today.
Lastly here, I mean, you said you think you got it figured out. A track like this, I feel like suits this engine package pretty well. You get to keep that minimum speed higher. How do you kind of balance out the gear at a place like this?
Yeah, you kind of just want to tune more for the top end because everything else is fast, and then there's one corner that's kind of slow but not super slow. So you just more want to tune for the top end.
Thanks, Finn.
Thank you.
Back to you guys.
Let's see how that tuning's paid off for the juniors. John Antonino Jr. still top of the pylon by about 1/10.5. Here's Ashton Woon and Tyrone Kemper Jr. They're working together and still not making any headway right now towards the overall top qualifying time. A 41.49 is still holding station, and it's another one matched by Antonino. 2 laps now within a couple thousandths of each other. He remains on top.
Kind of shows some good potential possibility for Antonino in particular for later on today if he's able to carry this consistency into the race, because that's going to be the main thing, is consistency wins the race, consistency wins the overall championship. But when it comes to for Antonino, it's the matter of can he back it up in the race. We know Ashton Woon, we talked about his prowess in the racing realm, is going to be there with him being in control of this field later on in the day. Woon, I think, is going to see a lot of pressure from behind in that early going of drivers that are going to want to try and figure out, can they leapfrog the 195? Can they take advantage to be able to try and take control of this race? Once we go racing, Woon continuing to look solid, at least consistency-wise, and that's going to be the bigger thing, if anything, is long-term consistency. Can they have a consistent pace lap after lap for what they're able to do? Woon able to put up a fast time at the end as well on those tires. That's going to be important for later on.
He'll jump up the board to second. Cole Medeiros to third. Cole to the top there with a big late lap. John Antonino held the top spot for most of that session, but now it'll be Cole Medeiros as your top qualifier in OKN Junior with a stunner at the line. Antonino, Woon, Travis Pettit jumps up late. Tristan Murphy in the 111 RPM. Tony Kart moving into that 5th spot to close that session out. And of course, all of that, again, as if it was qualifying. I'm out of sorts here, Justin.
I was about to say it was warm-up. Remember,
it was warm-up.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. This is just a practice session.
Yes, but it's still important for later in the day to make sure you have the tone set, and it's a good test for a lot of those drivers at the end of the session where they started boosting up. That might have been them trying to see what would be race conditions in terms of how they would normally manage the tires, and if they had to push for that last lap, like as the checker flag, where would those times fall, and better yet, how would their car run once they were pushing hard 100% rather than just keeping it consistent, say 70%, to make sure they don't cook the tires.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, right? For Cole Medeiros to be that fast on what would have been lap number 9, that's huge. Let's go down back to pit lane. OKN Stars almost ready to roll.
Thanks, Xander. Chase, one question here, buddy. You're rolling off pretty good today. What are you looking for in this warm-up session?
We're looking to get the car dialed in for the tires, and our first session with one session with tires, so hope we can figure it out and keep it going.
All right, so the pace is good. What do you think is, been able to, kind of get you off and rolling pretty quickly here this weekend?
Just mega power engines and just getting the go-kart dialed in from the start. Me and Chad working really good together.
All right, good luck, Chase.
Thank you.
I will say that was 2 questions asked there, but the points remain simple. Making sure the tires, you have what you need data-wise to be able to go racing. OKN Stars, the next warm-up grouping as they wait for that signal to turn from, blank to green. And yesterday, remember, when it came to the qualifying session, how did things fare out? Well, quite simply, for OKN Stars, it was Paulie Massimino who set the pole time with a 40.455. Chase Gassiet Lee, a rookie in this class, was in second though. Ramos, the top 3, as it's time for the karts to head onto the racetrack as they start the warm-up to make sure they've got those data sets ready for later on in the afternoon.
Yeah, OKN Stars, let's give a little bit of storytelling here. First of all, Chase Gassiet-Lee nearly snagged that pull away from Paulie Massimino yesterday. Oh, so close it was for the Nash Motorsports EOS Kart driver. Just came up a little bit shy from knocking off the defending race winner and the defending series champ in the time session. And it was against a field that was not short on the rest of the players from last year either. Diego Ramos, close, and Chase was able to best him here on his OKN Stars debut. And the rest of the pack as well that also had made some major improvements on the year, and even a race winner in Henry Wheeler. Here's a look at everyone that we've got lined up for your OKN Stars division and how they'll line for the motos today. With Chase lining up on the outside of row number 1, and then just ahead of Diego Ramos, the number 2 plate, James Overbeck on his OKN Stars debut. Another driver moving up, but in the case of Overbeck, after 2 years of dominating the KA Stars class, especially last season, but back-to-back championships for the number 48, he's decided to take the plunge into the headline category, and it was a 4th in qualifying, just off the pace of his teammate, ahead of the likes of, again, former vice champ and race winner in Henry Wheeler, and Wesley Gunler as well, who was impressive.
Austin Old's going to be amongst that top 7 later on today as well. He looked fairly impressive in the qualifying session yesterday. But some of the other names talking about those, Finnick and Bailiff, going to be someone to keep an eye on from 13th. If he's going to be able to charge forward. You also have some of the double duty drivers like Morak in 20th position, going to have to come from deep in the field amongst some of those drivers for later on today for Moto 1 on how they're going to line up then. A lot of these drivers keeping it fairly calm, it looks like. Just making sure they've got their checks in place and their carts figured out for today. Paulie Massimino, last year's winner and champion, currently holding a fair bit of drivers back as he just wants to get on his own and see how it runs on its own, it looks like.
Yeah, it's a game of who blinks first, Justin. When you're as fast as Paulie has been, a lot of drivers want to follow you, and Diego Ramos was one of them. Paulie didn't want to give away anything, so he was going nice and slow, holding up the train a little bit, trying to say, you know what, if you want to follow me, we can go at a pace lap speed for this entire session. But he may also be breaking in some parts and pieces here in the opening couple of moments of warm-up, or maybe the entire session. So trying to just maybe do an engine change or adjustment, and they said, hey, go easy on it, break it in slow. Don't do anything at full song either for the full session or until the very end of it, because that's very important. These motors, again, a much different ball game than the IAME spec classes that fill the rest of the structure outside of the shifter categories. You've got the same types of specs, right, with OKN. It's multi-manufacturer. It's a little bit more open for the builders to play. And that also means that while it's a little more expensive up front to buy, there's the opportunity to find more speed and just make one motor your A motor versus buying lots and trying to find an all-star among the spec divisions. So with that extra adjustability, with that extra buildability in it, I don't know if that's exactly a word. We'll talk at workability for the OKN power. There's more ways to break them and more ways that you got to be kind of delicate with getting everything out of them and breaking them in.
Yeah, just got to get the right feel of things. And the big thing about the class, it's only a couple years into its existence when it comes to that style of racing too. So there's a lot of learning with it, right?
Exactly. I mean, we've only run this division now for a total of 8 race weekends between Stars in 2023 and 2024. But we've been running the KZ-powered engines for quite some time, and one driver who has also gotten experience in them is Talon Yockel. He returns this season with some new colors. Alex?
Thanks, Xander. Yeah, this weekend you're running with Mark Steele Motorsports here at Talon. Talk to me about that.
Well, Mark invited me 2 weeks ago to come under his tent for this weekend, and I really like Mark. I'm close friends with him and Ian, and I'm teammates with Ian this weekend. I'm actually not sure if he's doing warm-up this morning. Oh, yeah, there he is. But, yeah,
we're just learning this go-kart as we go. Obviously in Texas, I went the wrong way with setup, so Mark is very knowledgeable on these chassis, the Burrell chassis, and yeah, I'm ready to go, pick myself up. I'm excited, trying to have fun again, but I want to be up at the front, so we'll see how it goes.
What's it going to take to get towards the front?
Probably just driver stuff mainly. We made a few adjustments on the kart, but it's mainly me, so I'll just have to probably drive a little bit harder. I'm taking it too easy out there.
Thanks, Dallin.
Thank you.
Minute to go in the warm-up session for OKN Stars. Diego Ramos, 10th and a quarter up on Wesley Gunler. Jacob Kolar, OKN debut. He and his father Jerry were very excited about getting to run this package here this year. And oh no, things have not gone to plan for Paulie Massimino. We saw him slow. I was hoping he was maybe just breaking things in. Looks like something may have broken.
Yeah, that is not good for later on today.
No, and this event, Saturday, was not kind to him last year either, Justin. Had engine issues at the beginning of Moto 1, I believe, or one of the two motos. Was it Moto 1, if I remember right? One of the two, he couldn't get off the line.
Yes, and that put him in the back foot where he had to charge, remember, in the final on the Sunday, where, remember, he was able to fly his way to the front, had to battle hard for third, battled hard for the race lead. Now we'll have to see if that's going to be a similar situation here today, where it's hard to come from behind in the racing, I will say, when keeping an eye on this, because it takes consistency in each of the sessions to keep progressing, moving forward. If you can't move forward from where you're at starting, the deeper you are in the field, the harder it is to win the race. It is hard to win from, say, 10th or 12th. It is extremely difficult. You have to be basically amongst that top 5 to 8 to be the most comfortable position for the race. So Massimino will have to see if that's going to impact things for the motos as some of these karts now come into the pit lane with checkered.
Yeah, that'll do it. Warm up to a close for most of them. Coming to the line here to finish some more laps out, there's James Overbeck. Paulie did put a fast lap in. It still puts him 5th before the kart unfortunately failed to finish and make it into the scale lines under its own power. Overbeck down in 10th. But a major improvement overnight for Diego Ramos and that PSL Karting Bureau Large squad. 10th and a half up on Chase Gassie Lee here in the warm-up. Wesley Gunler, a nice leapfrog up the board to end 3rd. Austin Olds still safely in the top 10. Larenko, Maverick McKenna picks up a little speed overnight, and then Bailiff and Overbeck your top 10.
Yeah, you also have amongst those drivers that I'm noting here, Kieran Rogers amongst the front. Towards the back, though, Jacob Kolar back at 16th. You're a second off the top time of the session. As is Mignon Du at the bottom of the board, 2 seconds back in this session. Our next group of drivers, though, for the Pro Stars, Gage Korn was one of the talking points yesterday with the consistency shown by him. He's getting ready to fire things off. He'll be 4th during the moto competitions later on today to start things off. He looks dialed in and set as one of the first drivers lined up in this qualifying, or rather this warm-up grouping, to hit the racetrack in a moment. And the question is going to be, will anybody be able to keep up with AJ Myers this week? Myers, a 10th quicker than everybody else in the qualifying session yesterday. And we know Myers in his races, when he usually runs away, well, it's usually very hard to catch him. His usual margin of victory was by a couple seconds in races last year in this championship.
Yeah, AJ Myers, when he's on it, he is nearly unstoppable. It's so rare to find a mistake or a moment in a weekend once he starts rolling where the wheels would ever fall off the bus. And the Magic Man, pole in qualifying yesterday by a comfortable margin over the field. Granted, the field was jumbled up behind him, and I think there's going to be a lot of storylines to talk about outside of the number 1 plate. But when it comes to Pro Stars, last year's champ, who really only ran partial schedules, and whenever he would show up in years past, he would once again be one of the dominant factors, if not the dominant factor. He still remains the class of the field. A couple drivers look like they're going to wait and take their time to roll off the grid. A lot of them look to be some of the Red Army machines, the TKG and PSL Karting Alliance. There's Morgado and Gavin Bailiff at the back, along with Ian Quinn and Jay Irwin, the New Zealander, leading a group of them onto the racetrack from the latter half of the field. So PSL Karting led by Jay Irwin yesterday, third in qualifying for the Kiwi. And we go back a year ago, he was on another level in the main event. He and AJ Myers were neck and neck in the motos, close in qualifying. He hadn't even turned 16 years old yet, and he was going head-to-head, trading blows with one of the best American karting drivers in the last 2 decades. And this year, an even more confident Jay Irwin, hot off a top 5 run at opening weekend for the Pro Tour over in Houston for the Stars Series, and 365 days to the weekend of his first ever U.S. major win. He's ready to back it up.
And the question will be, where will he be? So they get rolling. Well, third spot is going to be where he's going to be starting. But the thing is going to be, how is he going to battle with Myers? How is he going to battle with Justin White, who are going to be in front of him in the roads? You have Gage Corn that's going to be alongside him in the Maranello USA kart as well later on today. Morgado and Bailiff going to provide a lot of upward pressure amongst those top 3 rows. Those top 3 rows are going to be a gauntlet in the opening laps, possibly, as they battle to sort out how they line up. And then you have Eli Fox and company. That's going to be interesting from 7th on back in that lineup.
Yeah, that whole group right around the midfield could change quite a bit. Vincenzo Saraceno's had some drives forward. Jonathan Ocasio has shown some promise. And CJ Bowman has been extremely impressive for the limited seat time and action that he has seen over the couple of years. And I think that CJ Bowman, in only his 2nd year contending when it comes to shifter kart action, could be kind of a dark horse to maybe get a top 5 or top 10 result, even with a bottom of the barrel qualifying performance. But there's so much that you don't see of what can factor into where the drivers end up in the results sheet, that you can see some major swings overall in the day. And the same goes with, again, we see Paulie Massimino going off to the side of the racetrack. Don't know what happened. We just know that the kart stopped. Alex, what do you have for us on the reigning champ?
Yeah, guys, spoke to Paulie and I asked him, listen, what happened? He said, I was rolling through turn 8, which is the corner, the sweeping left-hander out to the long back straight, and he got back to the throttle, and there was absolutely nothing. My follow-up question was, well, what do you think? Was that Reeds? He said, listen, probably, but it didn't feel like Reeds. Usually when Reeds go, you still have a little bit of power. He said it was absolutely nothing coming from his right foot. What do you think, Xander?
I don't know. I mean, it could be a lot of things. It sounds to me more like carburation does sound right when it comes to that, but there could be so many things that could cut power. But my brain goes right to fuel. I mean, it could be simply with the basics of just the throttle cable line not opening the valve to let fuel through to the carburetor and choking it out. But it could be a number of reasons as to why the gasoline's not getting through and burned to get some power out of it. But it could be anything related to the throttle cable and the pedal connection, down to overall fuel line and carburetor related issues. But it doesn't sound, again, what he's saying, where those reeds, when they stick, it's a little bit different. And there's normally also a power, if they're cracked, you'll feel that you're way underpowered, but there won't be an instant flip off like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if they can get it fixed up in time here. They still have about a couple hours until they get to the motos, at least, to get that fixed. We'll say top of the board in this session, Gage Corn was about to say that until the Magic Kart of Myers magically went up front. All of the Magic Karts started off keeping things calm, it looks like, in the session. Now starting to open things up a little bit to see where they're going to be on the stop chart. Justin White, though, only back in 6th place right now in the session as we're keeping an eye on 234 car.
Yeah, Gage Korn's qualifying effort yesterday. He said, they were in good spirits. His first words to his dad when I walk up to congratulate him was, now we're going to Millbridge Saturday night. So he wants to race anything and everything. And I guess part of the agreement was, well, you better perform in what we're really here in North Carolina for, and that's the Stars Championship Series Queen City Gambit. But fourth in qualifying, a great opening effort. Second now on that lap around. Only bested by the driver on your screen, the reigning champ in AJ Myers, but he's quicker than a former world champ and the SCUSA Pro Tour champion, Mateus Morgado, who makes his debut with the series this weekend. And into fourth, splitting up the winner from Texas in Gavin Bailiff and the reigning SCUSA champ, the rookie standout in Gage Korn, and then the magic man himself, AJ Myers, Charlie Steins, and that Factory Fury GP Kart Motorsport group turned a lot of heads and had them, I think, almost at a breakneck swivel when he stole the pole in Super Pole qualifying 2 weeks ago. Last year here, Charlie Steins and Eli Fox kind of hovered the top 10, right around 8th to 12th or so was where their pace was and where their performance kind of had them for a lot of the weekend. Then he goes and puts it on pole, and a lot of drivers said, well, all right, that was one fluke performance. Then they put on another set of tires in the main event, and he was all over the rear bumper of Jay Irwin and Mateus Morgado for the entirety of the race in the fight for third. He ended fifth at the end of it all. He has been on a whole other level here in 2025, and the same goes for that team and that program. This is a new program over the last couple of seasons. Last year was a big leap for them to take Charlie and Eli Fox into the gearbox categories, and this year they seem much stronger. And so for the GP car group, fourth in warm-up, a 10.5 off of AJ, that's very promising, Justin.
Extremely promising, and the thing that's making me stand out in terms of time as well, his current average is quicker than some of those that are up in front of him on the pylon by a good 0.4 of a second. So that Kart, if he's able to carry it to the race, might have some good long-run pace in it in the race itself as he finishes up the session with another time in the 40.6s. Very consistent on that mark now. The thing is, there is one benchmark. Myers, he's been consistently in the 40s, and Myers was flying that session.
He was. AJ Myers, wicked fast, and he remains undefeated in the sessions that we've aired here on the live broadcast. Fastest to end practice, fastest in qualifying, fastest in morning warm-up. The number one plate, AJ Myers. It is time to go racing here from Charlotte Motor Speedway, America's home for racing here in Concord, North Carolina. The on-track activity with the heat racing action will be exclusive to KC Premium members, so that was your last session that we'll be able to air free for you here today. But before we sign off, we of course want to send it back down to Alex for some final thoughts here from the Pro Stars drivers, AJ Myers, Gage Korn, Mateus Morgado, Charlie Steins, and Gavin Bailiff, of course, the top five. Here's a look at the rest of the day's schedule. Both of the heat races, both of the Pro Show motos, all exclusive to KC Premium members. We'll be back with free coverage in the morning tomorrow for the final round of warm-ups. And then the Mazda Motorsports Pro Show is free to view from America's home for racing, kicking things off at 1:15 p.m. Eastern, 10:15 a.m. Pacific. Let's go back down to you, Alex, on pit lane.
Thanks, Xander. Charlie, kind of picking up where you left off at SCUSA, putting it on pole at SCUSA here, top four in warm-up. Kind of describe how your weekend's progressed thus far.
Yeah, kind of struggled early on in the weekend with the wet weather. Just, I don't know, in the intermediate when it was kind of strange the way this track dried. Half of it dried earlier and then half of it was wet. I was just struggling through those conditions, and then not having the practice later on, just qualified poorly because of I just wasn't prepared with the less practice. But I think now we figured it out, so this should be good going through the rest of the weekend.
Speaking to a couple of drivers, the way the rubber's being laid down, it's rather good. Is that how it feels like for you?
Yeah, I think surprisingly with as little sessions as we've had, the rubber is going down pretty quickly. Just starting to ramp up now that we've actually got some sessions in the dry.
You said you didn't qualify kind of as far up as you would have liked. This track, slightly more narrow, tougher to pass than a shifter. What is it going to take to kind of get around some guys in the heat races?
Yeah, it's just going to take being aggressive. There's a few spots, specifically the end of the back straightaway. I think that's turn 8, and going into 1, just where we're having to cross over. It's easier to set up a switchback or dive bombs down after a little bit of a straightaway, so it should be just fine.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
That'll conclude our coverage here from the morning. America's Home for Racing is active on the high banks and on the infield here at turn number 3. Justin and myself will be ready with pre-final action, or heat racing action here. Getting ahead of myself. Heat 1, KA Masters here in 10 minutes.